All right, welcome back to the English and English podcast. That's Brett.
That's Eric.
We got more glorious, glorious content for you today.
Oh, yeah.
Produced by us at no cost to you, our 3 viewers.
Hey, it's not that bad.
No, it's like 25,
It's growing.
I think. Yeah.
It's growing.
So, so we got some topics. What do we got? Kick us off.
All right. This was one. Again, got several that fall under the category of Facebook is just infuriating now.
Oh, no.
Because all it is
I don't
dumb.
know if I can talk about this.
Well, it's humorous stuff, but it's all
Right.
ones that people link to, and then it's just like...
It's only sad when you think about these are
that?
like real people's thoughts.
Right. Well, it's
And
like...
that's
it's
how
one
they go
thing,
through their
it's
life.
somebody
is with
sharing...
thought processes
If
like
somebody
this.
makes a sappy or stupid article, then somebody else shares it as if this is gospel.
You know, I don't know what yours is going to be, but I've seen a ton lately that are like really poorly written stuff about, and it's all women that tend to throw this stuff up there that like all about like super strong people, but they're like crying on the inside. Like you see, all you see is her strong face. You don't see the tears and all that. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
What is this even in reference to? Like,
I don't
what are
nothing.
these? I've not seen
they're
these
nothing.
ones.
They're just like they're not in reference to anything.
It's look
Just
at me.
like-
I have something to say.
Right?
Isn't it
Like what
crazy?
you see is a strong person. You don't see her on the verge of tears. I'm like, it's not that strong.
Well, all that is somebody trying to. No, that's all.
It's
that's
just
somebody-
fake booking. Like, oh, what's wrong,
Fake
honey?
booking, trying to say something
Yeah.
right now is going on with me, but I'm not going to say what it really is.
Right.
I will use some meme to talk
And
about.
also a way for them
I'm
to
hurting on the
feel
inside.
like they're strong without even though they're crying all the time.
Right,
And on the
yeah.
verge of crying all the time.
Right, yeah. Well, there's a difference between being saddened by things and being
Right, and
crying
act
all
of
the
crying
time,
doesn't make
like-
you weak, but I mean, like, when it's about the dumb shit that they're crying about.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean,
anyways,
there's
what was
also
the-
a difference between like crying on the inside and being strong on the outside versus being strong enough to go work through the sadness. You know, like, hey,
Right.
my friend just died with a bullet to the head in combat.
Right.
You push through and fight for the rest
Right.
of the team. That's one kind of crying on the inside that's like, yeah, not soft. You will mourn your friend later.
Right, but you don't go posting things about how no one noticed that you're really sad.
I hope nobody notices that one comment about love handles made me a little,
Right.
little weepy. You know, like.
But
Anyway,
what was the
this one was
example
not that. This one was 2 of them. Just like if this is logic these days, I don't know
Well,
what.
there's no such thing these days.
Right, well, yes.
Logic and
There was
argumentative reasoning is.
There was one of those cute videos of. It's probably pretty old at this point, but it was like a lion, a tiger, and a bear all in one zoo.
Okay.
Or animal shelter.
my.
All getting along, you know, like they're in the same pen and they're just hanging out. And it was like, you know, some cute promo video for this
Zoo.
like Noah's Ark Animal Shelter or something like that. I didn't even watch the video with the sound on. I don't
like
know
someone
the
should
content of what
release
they were
these
saying.
back into the
Well,
wild.
no, it was somebody saying like, "Oh, it's so beautiful. Like, look at how these 3 animals get along. If these animals, these 3 different kinds get along, why can't human beings?" I'm like, you do realize the only reason these animals getting along is because humans are influencing them.
Right, and it's
because
a
they've domesticated
completely
these
artificial
beasts
environment.
in this artificial environment. These beasts now feel they don't need to fight each other for food or territory, and they can get along. It is actually a statement of the
And they still
positive
probably
influence
would.
of humanity.
And they probably
not
would
a
fight if you
statement
just
of,
threw a steak in there.
Right,
They're
yeah,
not
they
just
might.
gonna like share
Or except
it.
that other human beings had gone in there and been like, no,
what
when
I
they
mean.
came in with a...
But if you just left them alone,
Yeah.
they wouldn't. They would.
Yeah,
fight
it was
over
like this video was a testament to the positive influence of human beings
And
over
even
the
if-
chaos of nature, not a statement of how
Right.
we need to get back to nature so we don't fight like the animals
Like
don't
all the
fight.
animals in the wild, never
Never
fighting
fight,
with each
never
other.
eat each other, never fuck each other
Right.
in heat or something, you know.
Nature's
They're
nothing
just-
but like rape, murder, and
Right, yeah,
violence.
exactly. You should see some of the reproductive methods that animals have, you know. It's horrifying. Yeah.
So here's more news, which is more non-news. Apparently, we talked about this last podcast. That the world's oldest person died.
Yeah.
Apparently, 5 days later, the next oldest
this
was
down the line.
then the world's oldest
Oh,
person.
man, it's
they got their title, and then
right.
it's like it's an epidemic of 115-year-old people dying.
Right. Final Destination.
Holy shit!
It's the
Another
new Final Destination
115-year-old person dies.
There you go. That's the premise for your new Final Destination
Right.
movie. All the oldest people are at a convention.
Right, and they start dropping.
And they start
like
dropping
flies.
off. It turns out it's just heart disease.
Yeah,
You know,
just
like,
being 115
just being
years
115.
old.
It's not the Grim Reaper at all.
Right. They're like, in fact, they're actually dead anyway. They've been dead for years. It's just
Right.
their bodies are shambling around like
Right, yeah.
soullessly, and they finally just fall over.
Right, yeah. Their minds and consciousness are
Right.
already in the afterlife.
right, and they're just like the meat suits kind of flopping
Just
around.
flopping around. That nobody can tell because it
Right,
just looks like
it's
they had
just saying
Alzheimer's.
that. Yeah, exactly. I think they're just dementia, but it's just really a soulless meat suit.
Yeah.
And then there was something I saw, like Hillary has officially announced her campaign, and like, and
Wow.
well,
Yeah.
there was two. The funny thing is, one was that like she did it for like the everyman, like the normal person. And this is someone who was saying like it wasn't even that long ago that the scandal about like oh, we were so broke. Remember when she said
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
It was
we
back
so
when they
broke
had
we had to lose
and they had
them.
like 4 houses at that
Right,
point.
yeah.
Or like $1,000 was like the least they ever made one year.
Right,
and I don't
yeah.
even think it was anywhere near that low.
They can never be for the everyman.
No,
It's
she
all
hasn't
pandering.
driven in 20 years. They
Right,
said,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
what are you
Anyone
talking
who
about?
works and lives in Washington,
But that's
D.C.
not the
has
reason-
never been an everyman.
Yeah, that's not
since
the
they
reason
got there.
I brought it up. Was that her campaign announcement, whatever, had a hilarious typo.
Yeah.
Where it said she's been fighting children and families her whole career.
Instead of 4.
I'd
pay to see that, actually.
Yeah.
The Clintons, like, beating off families of 5.
She's been fighting children and
Fighting
families her
children's
whole
family.
career.
Like, mostly, dude, it's mostly just, like, children and women, you know? Like, it would be
Right.
most hilarious if it's, like, the stay-at-home moms or, like,
fighting
single moms.
fighting the underprivileged her
Fighting
whole
the
career.
privilege, like, wading into the ghetto and just
Right.
beating the,
Like riffraff.
riffraff.
So that was funny. Fighting children and families her whole
You
career.
holdouts of the ancient patriarchy with your family structures, and then like
Right,
beating-
destroying them.
Right, yeah.
She's been fighting families and children her whole career. Like, wow, it's honesty once in politicians.
Yep,
That's
it's
hilarious.
inadvertent honesty.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the other story that I was talking about that somebody linked on Facebook, and I'm like, it was more the comments than just the story itself. That's
Yeah,
all I think.
exactly.
When people champion this stuff or
Right.
take from it something like, why would you take that?
What
from
is?
it?
How are you getting that from
Right,
this?
like real quick back to the bear thing and like the animals. It's like, yeah, it's it's always kind of cool when you see animals get.
But that's
along.
why it's like
'Cause
cute
there's-
and popular, because it's not
Right.
like a normal thing.
Right, exactly. It's like there's something in the human mind that wants to be able to run up and pet animals, and be at peace with the animals, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like whatever that is, we want to be able to just be there and have like all these animals that normally don't get along or would eat us
These
or
are like
something.
cute and funny looking, whatever. Yeah.
Right, yeah, but so that's there, and this picture is a testament of how human beings' influence can accomplish that. Not a testament of how humans corrupt
Right,
and these
yeah.
animals are so pure if we just would learn from them. It's like, no, these animals eat each other if
Right.
we don't train them.
And they'd eat us too.
And
If
they
we
eat
didn't
us,
have
too.
them when we were like 10 times their size and
Right,
grow
yeah.
up and they're stupid and not realize it.
Right, yeah, exactly.
That
They
they're
used to
now
feeding them.
right and picking them up and stuff.
Right. And but the other one was some article making the rounds, and it was like eating healthy is the new eating disorder.
Yeah.
You've seen those where it's like,
Well, I mean that's true. Like people now are starting to say like the reason they have that article is because somebody was like something nervosa instead of anorexia nervosa, it was like orthodoxia nervosa, which
Right.
is like you're too focused on eating healthy now, or
Right,
something.
yeah.
Which obviously anything can be an obsession,
right,
but
that's the point. It's like it's a end run around the real issue.
Right.
The issue isn't whether or not some people take it too far. The
or
issue
whether
is,
it's even damaging if you do. It's
Right,
just like a
it's
mental
just-
disorder.
right,
Like
the
you can
question-
brush your teeth too much.
right. You can be OCD and do all
Right.
sorts of cleanly habits far
which
too
are like
obsessively.
individually good things, in a
Right.
vacuum, but
The question is though, it's a way of like clinically trying to get away from
like,
talking
I don't want to
about
be
how
crazy.
healthy food
or
is.
it's just them making an excuse. Like, I don't want to be one of those people who's obsessed.
Right,
You
it's
know
like,
what I mean?
I don't
Like,
want to be one of those people that's obsessed.
I'd
So
rather
I'm
be
just
a
gonna eat
greasy
pizza
fat
and get
fuck
fast.
and
You know,
have
yeah,
things
exactly.
hidden in your
It's like,
panicus
it's
or
a
whatever.
way of people like
Well, I wanted to look that up.
getting away from actually eating healthy. Well, eating healthy is a disorder.
I want to look up how to-
No, it's not. A couple people, yes, take it to that extreme, but you can't blanket.
Obsessions are a disorder.
Right, but you can't blanket all people concerned about the modern food being not as healthy
I did
as
something
it should
bad.
be. Oh, you did something about fatness.
Well, I knew the
You
word
brought up-
panicus is for like the fat fold. It's called a panicus. That's why I just
I can
referenced
imagine
it.
what you've seen.
Well, I wanted to know how to pronounce it because I was not arguing, but someone was like, "Is it panicus?" I thought it was panis, and I was like, "Well, it has a C in it," so I wanted to look up what it is. But it's paniculus or panicus. I think it's paniculus.
Anyway,
But
it's the fupa.
well, I
It's
just
the
showed
fat fold.
images, and this one dude has a stomach that's like literally down to his shins.
Ah, yeah.
It's fucking disgusting. I didn't even want to look at. I didn't look at pictures. So I'm gonna see how to pronounce it
Anyway,
because I read a whole article.
that kind of stuff, like right there. I mean, there's always been larger people.
Yeah, somebody like
fatter
that
people
with a
throughout
panicus
history.
down to their shins. They're like, "Oh, I don't want to be a mentalist or I'm obsessed over my celery."
Right.
Like, shut the fuck up.
Right, yeah, exactly. And not even just them giving excuses for themselves, but these people trying to talk out of like these whole things, like trying to discredit. Like, look, I don't eat paleo. I don't eat anything. I just try to eat mostly meat, vegetables, and avoid a lot of the pre-made shit. Not always very successful because I'm not really good at cooking my own meals. In terms of I don't plan for it, and then I'm like, oh god, I'm so hungry. I don't want to take the
this is
30 minutes
terrible.
it's going to take. Even 30 minutes is not that long, and I get lazy.
No.
But like, yeah. But anyway, so like, I'm not a particularly healthy eater. I just do a few small steps to avoid things that everybody else eats that are not good for you.
I'm actually pretty good about it. I mean,
Right,
other
but
than the
I'm
shit
saying
that I'm
like,
eating right
I'm
now.
not
but-
like one of those people.
yeah, I'm not hardly obsessive.
I'm hardly obsessed.
But again, I don't need to be either. Like
Right.
I definitely, I'm not going to lie. Like I can eat a diet that would make other people slightly overweight, probably.
Yeah.
But I still eat probably just more in terms of just absolute calories and just like I'm not eating garbage all the time.
Right.
Rice and chicken is my most common.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But look,
that's
there's
what I'm saying. I'm not being
grades.
obsessive like, oh, is rice paleo? That's the grain,
Yeah, or is a date that has higher than the glycogen fat.
I'm just eating like, is this a real piece of food? It doesn't have like monosodium glutamate in it.
Yeah, if you just go for stuff with one
Some sort of
ingredient,
corn mash,
yeah,
know,
I try
like
to stay away from
corn
fucking corn
injected
syrup because it's
corn syrup. It's in everything.
Yeah,
God.
and it's just like intellectually offensive to me that they try to like
Yeah,
use it
exactly.
for
It's
no
like,
reason. Like,
I
why is
don't
corn
care.
syrup in fucking bread?
Exactly. It's why isn't it fucking sausages?
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
why
it's
is there
meat.
a sausage with anything but meat and spices?
Yeah, I don't even care if it's like the hooves, if it's an actual hoof.
Right, I don't care if it's a mulched cow from Rudy
Yeah, a mulched anus, cow anus. At least it's a real cow
it's
anus.
a real cow
now they're
anus.
like cow anus is like 90% corn
now
syrup.
now with corn syrup. Yeah.
Now with real meat.
Yeah, not with real meat.
And it's not even anus. It's
Right.
just like
corn syrup injected cow anus,
Right.
you know. Oh, great. Wonderful.
well, this is now so the
Panaman, just get a cow
Here's some
anus.
grossness. This will make you obsess over your. This will give you the orthodoxy. Wait, let me look up what that word is too.
All right, well,
Anyways,
to finish my thought
Yeah.
while you're looking that up there, the thing is that, like, yeah, it's like people trying to get away from talking about how unhealthy food has gotten, while there's all these people out there that are far more overweight than any time in our history. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, and it's a lot of it. You know, like I'm not trying. You know, not. It's like a lot of it is just the fact that the food that is the average diet obviously can't be good for you because look at the results.
right. It's not like
Look at
people
the
have like
results.
evolved over the last 30 years.
Right, yeah, exactly.
To some new
It's
species
not like since
that can suddenly be
1921.
500 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like not since 1921 human genetics have changed
Have you
significantly.
seen that guy
enough.
Yancey or whatever that used to? It was from like the late 1800s, I think, maybe even early 1900s. But he was a circus freak show fat man.
Yeah.
And he was like maybe 350, 400 pounds.
Something
He was,
that's not
he was
that
a big fat guy, but you will see 7 of these dudes in Walmart anytime you go.
Right.
And this guy was,
Exactly.
people would
This
pay
guy was
to marvel at how like
top 0.1% outlier.
And
at that
right,
time.
exactly, because that's what it would take would be that kind of statistical outlier to be able to get fat off of you know moderately
Potatoes.
active life and the normal and real food.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously something has to have changed in our eating habits or our food supply because
Both, I mean, but
Yeah.
certainly
because like human genetics hasn't changed that much, and like there was always been big
no, it hasn't
people
changed
in
at
fat-
all.
Right.
Not in the 50 years. I
Not-
mean, like
not
individual
2
populations.
generations.
Yeah, but not like
No.
not to the point where.
Right. And
I mean, you'll select for traits in certain populations, but that's
right,
it.
but at most, you know, it wouldn't be to such
I mean, you can
extent.
even look in the 50s,
Yeah.
and it's like, you know what I mean? Like, this is not that long ago that people,
Right.
70s maybe even,
Right.
But-
exactly.
where people were not, it's all this fake food. Anyway,
Right. So it's avoiding that whole discussion by saying eating disorder, like being obsessed with
probably,
eating it.
that study was probably funded by like the corn syrup
Right,
lobby.
Monsanto
Like,
or
you
some shit.
don't start looking too close in your food.
Just
it's
like,
nervosa.
it came out, you know, 20 years
Yeah.
after the fact that the whole Type A person. Did I tell you this one? Type A
You did, I think.
personalities and like Type B. That whole study was actually a study by the cigarette companies to try to blame lung cancer and heart disease
On being, like, a certain
on
types
being
of
a
person.
stressful personality type instead of on smoking all
They're
the
saying,
time.
well, they also just smoke all
Right,
the
it
time, but that
turns out-
personality type
turns
has
out-
cancers themselves.
Right, yeah. It's like it's not that they're smoking all the time. These
that they're
high-level
stressed
executives.
out.
It's that these high-level executives are ready meat-eating, you know, high-level, always on business trips, always on
Right.
meetings.
And
You know,
that's
always
bad for your
active,
body
and
or
that's bad
whatever.
for your body. So it turns out all these stories about like red meat and everything was largely these searches were the smoking, trying to get the cancer studies off of their back and
Thrown
throw
on
them on
anything else. Yeah.
high stress levels,
Meat,
hot
whatever.
meat, and all these other things. And it's like,
Well, they also just finally basically admitted that the evidence does not support that like arterial sclerosis is a result of dietary or bloodstream cholesterol. You know, it's
Right,
a result
yeah.
of other things that are happening that cause the cholesterol there to have the issue, but it's not.
Right, yeah.
It's not causation. The causation is like reversed.
right, yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So like eating high cholesterol foods does not cause arterial sclerosis.
Right, not
It's the fact that when you
necessarily.
have the hardening of the artery, it like the cholesterol gloms on there or causes your blood level cholesterol to
something
be higher
pulls
at
the
that
cholesterol
point.
to
Right.
into the area from some other effect.
Right. So it's totally backwards. But yeah, anyways, I was looking this up, and it's a panis. The term is paniculus, but it's derived from the word panis, which refers to flap or apron of hanging tissue. And what's worse is that
Sounds sexy.
there's grades. Grades of panicus. Paniculus.
Paniculus.
Grade 1 is the Panicculus reaches the... So we can just talk to people like, oh, it's a grade 4 right there.
All right, give me the grades
All
here.
right, grade 1, the Panicculus, or what's also known in, to use the parlance of our times, as the fupa, the fat upper pubic area.
Right.
Grade 1 is the Panicculus reaches the pubic hair, but not the genitals. So it's a little bit of a Dunlop. Like Dunlopped over your belt.
Yes, I got it.
The Panicculus so 2 is it lies over the genitals down to the thigh crease. So it's touching your...
Blocks your...
Yeah, it's right at where you hit
can't see
bend.
your junk anymore.
Or at least touches it, yeah. You probably can't see it even with the first one.
Right. Well, if it's you yourself. Yeah. But I'm saying like an outside observer.
Yeah, an outside observer. Well, it's poking out of the grade 2.
Right, yeah.
The grade 3 Panicculus reaches down to the upper thigh.
Okay, so this completely covers.
It's touching your thigh.
You have an asexual being who's just... What is their sex? Their sex is fat.
Right.
Yeah, like that's what
and then grade 4...
You gotta lift and find.
Oh, grade 4 is mid-thigh.
Halfway to the knees.
Halfway, and then 5 is knees or below. Ugh.
Being so fat that it goes past your knees.
I don't
mean, like that's the thing. Like, I understand that some people have medical things that it makes
know
it hard
few
for
of them are serious medical issues that like eating
I'm not saying
broccoli
serious medical
for 6
issues.
months would
Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying serious medical issues. I'm saying I understand that some people have medical things that mean that, or just genetic predispositions is the better way to say it, that the foods they're eating have a bigger effect on them than other people.
No matter what you eat, I would never have a grade 5 panicculus. It's literally impossible for my genetics
for my
to do
metabolism,
that. Yeah.
I probably unless I was to gorge myself.
No, but I still don't think my body would do
could.
that.
No,
I've never had that issue, and but that's irrelevant. I mean,
so I'm a little bit lucky in that regard. But I'm saying, so what I'm saying is, yes, I will concede that there are people who are unlucky genetically, that this happens to them a lot easier than it does to other people.
But that's irrelevant to what you should do about it.
Right, that's irrelevant to what you should do
Just
about
like
it.
I'm genetically predisposed to not being able to wake up at 6 a.m. and drag my ass into a job.
Right,
you know what I mean?
But I still got it, yeah.
Right,
yeah. But
I don't luckily right now, but
right, but point stands.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's
like
the point.
so,
is I changed what I needed to, so I didn't have to deal with that aspect of my genetics.
Right, change it to your adapt your life to be most beneficial to your genetic
your predispositions.
The point is that it's still the whole like eating healthy is an eating disorder now thing. It still puts lie to that because like the whole point is that these people, even if they may just be genetically predisposed to that, this stuff is doing it to them that they're eating.
Right.
That it's not necessarily doing it to everybody as bad, so it may not be 100% their fault. Like, oh, that fat fuck, you just need to stop eating.
Fault. It's like,
but
this is the desired goal. This is what you would do to get.
Right, but I'm saying that aside, there's obviously something not great about the food if this is the end result of eating it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Everything else aside, like this guy may have a genetic predisposition to it. I'm sorry that's the case for him. But the fact is that everybody eating it is not that great off, and some people are really bad off, like this guy.
People still have these issues in the 30s. Like whatever medical issues they may have had, and they didn't end up like this.
And we didn't end up with this many people like this. You know, it's just like, so something obviously changed. You know,
right. Like it's certainly there, but I mean, like, and a lot of people underestimate how many of these issues that they may have are a result of being so obese,
right?
And not because of it. Like if they have diet, like different types of adult onset diabetes
or
thyroid issues.
Oh, I've got this issue, so it makes me fat.
It's like so out of whack. That it causes also, and like a lot of these things magically disappear.
Right, because you have a body, genetic structure, a certain amount of bones and muscle tissue and arteries that can support a certain amount of mass. Then you exceed that. It's like running an engine. It's like redlining an engine with extra weight in the trunk. You know,
exactly. Crazy.
It's gonna strain it. Anyway. Let's move on to...
So who else we got left? We probably pissed off women, fat people.
Right. No, we haven't done women
well, not this podcast.
Not this podcast.
Yeah.
We'll have to get around to them.
We could go into Hillary a little more.
Right, yeah, exactly. Not every woman identifies as
I said women, not lizard people.
Right, yeah, exactly. Not the lizard queen.
Yeah. Well, we've offended lizard people.
Right, yeah.
By insulting their queen.
Right, yeah. They know she's one of us.
Oh, speaking of lizard people, that made me think. I watched that movie Wolf Cop on Netflix.
I have to see that. Yeah,
it was pretty ridiculous. It was worth watching because it was done tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Yes. But when he first transforms, because basically I'm going to spoiler alert for people who haven't watched Wolf Cop yet.
That bastion of high the Wolf Cop.
Well, I actually saw it at Walmart. I was getting a new remote, universal remote, because Mongo ate it again. His second remote he's eaten.
Yeah,
and so I was getting a new one, and I was walking out of there, and
Mongo is his dog.
He's a giant fathead dog. And it's my alter ego. Right. I woke up with a remote in my mouth and blood all over.
Oh no!
Sort of
Mongo
like
did something again. I didn't commit those crimes.
That's
Officer Mongo did.
That's in that movie by the Super Trooper guys, Broken Lizard. They had that movie Slammin' Salmon, which was really funny. And the one guy, Chandrasekhar, the brown guy, in the movie, he's like kind of schizo. And his alter ego is named Zongo.
Yeah,
he's like, Zongo does it.
Right, yeah, he's all like
But
flamboyant
his name
and
is Zongo,
aggressive.
and that's his alter ego. And he's just like, wait, what'd you do? He's like, I gave a woman a cup of hot water. It's like, that doesn't sound too bad. With my balls in it. Or I served an old lady a cup of hot water. Doesn't sound too bad. With my balls in it. Zongo. But anyway, so then I saw Wolf Cop at Walmart, and I was like, oh, this is hilarious. And I happened to just check, and it was on Netflix.
Yeah.
So I promoted it or nominated it for movie night, but everyone was like, Wolf Cop. And I was like, dude, Wolf Cop?
Movie.
It said half man, half wolf, all cop. I'm watching this.
I defy you to be
Yeah, exactly. I'm
yeah.
watching this. And so in the movie, spoilers coming up, werewolves aren't made by like being bitten by other werewolves. Like it takes like a devil's rite of passage or whatever. Mm-hmm. So they kidnap this guy because apparently shapeshifters need like werewolf blood to drink on like a solstice or whatever to maintain their
shape-shifting powers
and their immortality. Yeah, but they can only do it during a solar eclipse because that's when the werewolf
so they have to
weaken. So they have to create the werewolf,
create a werewolf through a ritual, and then hunt him.
And then when the solar eclipse comes and he's weakened for some reason, then they can drain his blood and drink him. So they create this werewolf, but he's like this boozy like reject cop. But apparently like the booze gives him like extra power that they're not used to. And there's this place there's a store called Liquor Donuts. They're like donuts with like liquor in them. So the werewolf was always drinking booze and eating liquor donuts. But he when he first transforms, he's like feeling like shit. And he's like, oh god. And he goes to the bathroom and starts peeing. And like all this blood comes out, and he's like, "Oh my god!" And then it shows his dick, and the werewolf dick like busts out of it. Oh god! And when he transforms, like his skin like sloughs off, so it leaves like a skin everywhere.
Right, yeah, horrible.
Right,
transformation
so
type.
His werewolf dick like bursts out of his regular dick. But then he goes into like this meth lab as the wolf cop.
Yeah,
and this guy like comes up to him and he just rips his face off. Yeah. And it shows the guy's like, oh! He's got like a skeleton face. Yeah. And so like throughout the rest of the fight, this guy's like, ah! like face running around with a skeleton face.
Obviously, this one's
and the face like flaps on the windshield and like is getting smeared around by the wipers.
Obviously going for schlock.
And then he has sexes someone up as a werewolf and everything too.
Of course,
naturally. Of course, hilarious.
Yep.
It's pretty funny.
While we're on the topic of movies,
wolf cops.
I was, they're doing all the trailers, like a whole bunch spate of trailers has come out recently, like full trailers, longer trailers for like Ant-Man,
right.
Terminator Genesis, and some new ones for the Avengers, which I've tried to avoid.
I try to avoid all of them because they show everything. Yeah. If you have like 10 different 3-minute trailers, like you've seen
every
a lot
of the movie at this point.
And like, yeah, like, even if you don't see all the actors, you know the entire story arc of the movie.
That's what I mean. Like you've seen a scene from each
like
act,
Genesis,
1, 2, and 3.
Spoiler alert! If you haven't seen the super promos,
Big
it like
shows
alert. John,
as
a infected
nano-infected John Connor comes back from the future now wants to merge man and machine or something.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Because he's been infected by the machines or something stupid.
Right.
Is that the chick from Game of Thrones?
I don't remember. I don't know what she's from.
I think it is.
What's the guy who played
what's the guy from Jack Reacher and Live Free, Die Hard and everything?
Yeah, played the son and Live Free, Die Hard.
I don't remember that guy's name. He's some Russian name.
Yeah. I don't like him for Kyle Reese.
Yeah, I don't either.
He just doesn't fit the original character that well. I mean, I don't think he's a bad action actor.
I don't like him either, but not for that role, I mean.
Michael Biehn was a scrawny, scrappy guy with a certain kind of edge to him that this guy just doesn't have.
Right, he doesn't seem edgy.
He doesn't have that kind of like acerbic edge or, that kind of wryness to him that... But whatever, like...
Obviously, the movie's going...
The movie's going to be weird. It looks kind of okay.
Because it could be entertaining.
It could be entertaining, but... I don't know. We'll see what they do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
and then Ant-Man...
I mean, it's kind of cool in that they're fully embracing the idea of, like, look, it's time travel, so everything's fucked up.
Yeah, who cares?
It's just, like, everyone's like, but that's not canon. It's like, who cares? It's time travel. They're changing it all the time. And the whole premise of it is they expect something to be one way because John Connor remembers the past, like, oh yeah, I sent you back to stop this Terminator. And Kyle Reese goes back there, and it isn't like the first time it happened because
they've all been sending from so many futures, have been sending stuff back at the same time and everything.
Right, yeah, or even times before, like the first time it didn't work, so we send it back earlier, and then
they're all arriving at the same time.
But then in another version, they reprogram the Terminator to go back and help.
Well, like now the one that's helping meets his original Terminator self when he shows up.
So like it turns out
I've been waiting for you,
which is it's a nice little touch that they could do. Like they could use current Arnold Schwarzenegger, still the Terminator, by saying eventually at some point, future humans sent a reprogrammed Terminator back much further, he lives there until his skin gets old,
right,
protecting the Connor family over decades.
Literally, like it's living tissue, so it does age.
Right, yeah, like the exterior is aging, even though the interior is still strong, And so it's aging, and he's been, like in this new version of the timeline, he's been protecting the Connor family for decades or something, and Sarah Connor now knows about it before Reese even shows up, because they had already sent Terminators after her.
Don't take this the wrong way, but I have to have sex with you.
Right, yeah, exactly.
At least they sent you back when I was young. At least they sent you back when I was younger and hotter.
Right, yeah, exactly.
For your sake.
So I'm just a time traveling stunt cock, right?
Yeah, exactly. Stunt cock,
right? But anyway, okay, those are spoilers, big spoilers.
Yeah.
Except that it's not spoilers because it's all in the trailer.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's not a spoiler if you've seen the trailer.
I've avoided the Avengers ones. I saw one other one that was just like a trailer. And I actually watched it with the sound off to not hear stuff. You know? But then they had a couple of the scenes like, ooh, here's a scene where Hulk and Iron Man fight, or here's a scene
here's Vision's face or something.
Yeah, or here's a scene where the first scene where they confront Ultron. I'm like, no, I don't want to see this.
Right.
Yeah, I want to see these scenes pulled out.
I remember when we saw The Matrix, all I'd seen was one preview where they were like, "You telling me I can dodge bullets?" He's like, "When you're ready, I'm telling you that when you're ready, you won't have to."
He's like, "Do you know
what the Matrix is?"
And then it shows the scene where he's like bending over on the rooftop.
No, it didn't even show that one. It showed the one where he was like holding his hand out, and the bullets were like slowing down towards him.
Okay. So it was very cryptic.
And I was just cryptic as hell. What the fuck is this movie about? And I just had no idea what it was about. Now it would be like, in a future where machines use people as batteries, you have to go inside the virtual reality.
Right. Every plot point would have been shown.
And so instead I was like watching it the first time, and they were like, we're tracking him, and I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Right, but you're engrossed.
And it makes it way more like meaningful of an experience to figure it out as you're watching along with the character, as you're watching the movie. Made it totally different. But now it's impossible to avoid learning everything about, if you have any sort of online presence, or certainly if you watch TV.
Well, I mean, it's probably not impossible because not everybody.
You have to dedicate yourself to it, to avoiding it, though.
Right, yeah. As a viewer, though, because they've got so much. It used to be. Here's the problem: is that they would get worried about people leaking stuff.
Right.
So now they preempt the leak by just showing everything.
Yeah, which is
problem is not everybody looked for the leaks. Like a dedicated hardcore people who get their kicks by finding these.
People are going to go pay for the movie anyway.
Half of them are not. No.
Well, I mean, there's the ones that will never, no matter what, and then the super nerds who are soaking up everything about the movie and are still going to go see it.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
So either way, the leaks change very little.
Pre-exposing the leaks only hurt the viewer who doesn't want to know.
Right.
They don't hurt the viewer that wants to know and is going to see it anyway.
Or who wants to know and isn't going to see it anyway.
Yeah, who wants to know and is just going to download it or not going to see it.
Never going to pay either way.
They only hurt the other half.
Well, it's like 90%.
Or 90% of the population that wants to see it opening day.
Or would be intrigued if you gave them a little bit of a taste.
Give them a tease and not,
just to know, like, hey, there's this movie coming up. It's pretty cool looking. Because you obviously have to promote the movie. You have to advertise it. But just that's why I think The Matrix one was so good. You're like, what the hell is this thing about?
Right.
I got to see this. It looks so fucking weird.
Right. Yeah, but like, there's a few things in some of the trailers that make me worried about Avengers, even though I've liked every one.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm kind of like...
And it's weird little subtle things. Like, there's a scene in one of the trailers where, like, they're all in that scene that they've shown in the trailers before, where, like, they're in the snow, in the woods, fighting some mysterious, just henchmen, like, guys on the stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where, like, they're all jumping off a hill, and it's slow-mos for a second, and Hawkeye's doing this really natural, like, leap forward with an arrow pose, and everybody's slowed down, and it's like... The first Avengers managed to avoid that kind of slocky, slow-mo action scene stuff too much.
Right. You got the one big fight in the end where they're all like, dun, 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 and that was cool.
Right, and they had a few poses where it slowed down here and there, but they played it pretty straight. I mean, everybody's doing unrealistic things like flying about with lightning hammers
but within
but there was no wire-fu-looking slow-mo moments that, like, were so obvious that, like, here's the moment to prove how cool we are, but it all slows down for a second, you know?
So hopefully that's not too overdone and
overwrought. Which is like, it's just the problem that happens in all kinds of things now, where every scene... I mean, like, I know they're going to have to use slow-mo a lot in this movie because one of the characters they're introducing
is super fast.
Super fast.
Yeah.
It's going to be... But when it's used well, it's just indicating of how much faster he is than everybody else.
By showing him moving almost normal speed and everyone else is barely moving.
Right. Not every shot has to be, let's look how cool we are, and do a slow-mo shot with it.
I think people always underestimate how powerful that power would be, like the Superman speed or the Flash speed. No one could beat you. No one could beat you.
Like the Flash. That's the
thing. Or like Superman, like they say with kryptonite. It's like when you're thinking at the speed of a bullet,
You
by
just
the
get away
time
from kryptonite instantly.
Well,
Or you see kryptonite,
or you
and
could
the
just decide. You'd have to be able to think that fast too, obviously, and see things that fast.
Right, yeah.
So
They
you
always
would-
overblow.
You could do an entire anything that you wanted to do in the amount of time it takes a bullet to travel. So
Right.
you wouldn't even have time to like flex your muscle to like open a pouch before he could have done whatever he wanted to you. Not to
Right.
mention he can see you from miles away anyway.
Yeah, Superman's way overblown, of course.
Right,
Like,
but
the
and even
what's
something
his
like
name
the
character,
Flash,
Quicksilver,
they'd be
Quicksilver
incredibly
is
powerful.
was always more stated. He was within the limits of reason because it's just a physical ability to move faster beyond like human abilities. It's not like Superman level super speed. Or
I mean,
Flash.
it looks like they're putting that in the movie though.
Well, no, I mean it was always like fast like that,
Yeah.
but it was never
Like you can still dodge bullets and stuff.
almost. Not
Yeah.
it was never played as much as like Superman's. It always shows it to the point of like, and the Flash eventually getting to the point of ridiculousness.
Yeah.
It's fun in the comics.
But I'm saying, you know how
but it's like,
unstoppable you would
exactly,
be?
How unstoppable you would be. It's ridiculous. Like they always play it off like with Quicksilver is always different. Like he was no stronger than anybody else though. So if like he punches you at 60 miles an hour, it's just gonna break his hand.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be able to do anything then. You
Right,
couldn't
so
even
you know-
like
you
if
know,
you were
I think
moving
we-
that fast and you even touched anything, it would leave like a streak of your flesh behind. Then if you weren't actually
Right. Well, I
toughened
mean,
by
they
it.
never touch on it until they you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but they always played him a bit more less overpowered, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, because he'd run around and be very fast, like take everyone's guns or something.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, but
Not-
if you're grabbing a gun at fucking 3,000 feet per second. That's gonna break your hand too.
Right. They don't
If
touch
you're
on
if
that.
you're not tough.
Right, yeah, they don't touch on that. But I'm saying, but yeah, it was never overplayed as much as, but it's still, yeah, it would be ridiculous. Like you said, if you can
It'd be
move,
so incredibly
speed
powerful.
is so important in like a fight or anything.
Or your ability to react and do things while the person is just literally frozen in front of you.
You can make
almost.
5 decisions before they can make 1,
Right.
and that's incredibly
Or
powerful.
that they wouldn't be able to stop anything you're doing. And even if you couldn't beat them, they could never just catch you.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But anyway, getting
Yeah,
a
we'll
little
see.
nerdy.
I mean, yeah, right. No, but it's that's not the problem. Though. It's like I said, the problem is just a few scenes in the thing makes me worried that it's gonna.
Be too much like Avengers, da-da!
Right, yeah, like the first one, all the other ones, even like the Captain America ones, I love it when the good thing about the Marvel ones versus like even the Superman one is they don't overplay it with the superpowers.
Right.
Yes, they have superpowers and like some of them can throw trucks and stuff,
Right.
but they're not lifting buildings. They're not like,
Right.
I mean, that works for like the He-Man cartoon where he bench pressed a mountain or leg pressed a continent, and it was like cool as shit as a
Right.
kid. But it's a cartoon,
Right.
It doesn't come across realistic when you're trying to do a realistic take,
Right.
in the movies, And so I'm just a little too worried the power creep will creep in, kind of thing.
I actually wasn't worried about that so much. It's just the stuff you were saying, like, is them like cheesing it up and
Well, that's what I mean.
overdoing.
That's
certain
what I mean. I
aspects.
don't mean power creep as in literally like they're going to make them doing too
But
many
just the
powerful things, but
superhero creep, I guess, if you want to call it that, where it's
Right.
everything's too fantastical and like almost too clean. It's like we're all leaping together in uniforms,
Right, yeah, like
in
it's
unison.
a shot that looks good in a comic book panel where
like a
everybody's in a
postcard,
weird
yeah.
pose, like doing a
It's not a
crazy
real
leap,
realistic thing in
but it's
live
not a
action.
realistic thing with a
Doesn't
live
translate.
action person. It's the problem that when they have to do it with CG to do the shot,
Right.
you really need to be evaluating that
of
shot.
whether it should be happening at all.
Because like
yeah.
if you can't make a human being do it and just superimpose
Then
them
it's
into
gonna look
it,
weird.
then it's going to look weird.
Right.
So luckily in the first movie there were very few scenes where they did that, and most of them were simply because the camera was doing things that they couldn't make the
Right,
person.
it's not gonna have it on a drone following the Hulk sliding down the face of a building or something.
Right, yeah, but like a human being could slide down the face of a building. It just
Right.
would kill you when you land if you're not the Hulk.
If you're not super powerful, right?
Right,
Yeah, but like assuming that these people have these powers and that could happen and stuff. like
right,
that.
yeah, but they don't need to like every shot doesn't need to be. I guess that's really what I'm worried about. Like
Yeah.
every shot now has to be
Well,
a
it's just
CG
gonna be
shot
too
to make it
over-
look too cool.
Yeah, like too overwrought and too like superhero coolish and clean and just.
Whereas some of the cool things like
like when
Captain
they
America-
land, they always land proper. Like that was kind of the cool thing about the Captain America movies is that he
Yeah.
does just like get thrown around and
Right,
he
but
fights
he
like
would
real
land,
fights.
Right,
and
he
stuff
would land,
and that.
but it would be landing. Like okay, I have to roll at the end, or like,
Or he lands on a shield on a car, and it's like, bam!
That
And
was
it's
the
like,
most
oh,
badass
shit!
part.
Yeah.
Was
Or
that
he
he
jumps
falls
out the
out of the
window,
building
and he
lands,
hides
it
on the
takes him a
shield.
second.
Yeah.
Like that was so much cooler
And he's
than
just like,
Superman
oh.
going through a building,
And you know it's not
being
gonna hurt
okay.
him, right.
It was him landing, 10 stories down, banging the shield. You hear
Well, no,
the
it's
ring
10,
of its
it's like
special.
3 or 4, but
But whatever he landed, and then the
Yeah.
special metal rings out, and
or in
he just
Avengers
goes,
when he jumps, like they throw a grenade and he jumps up behind the shield and
Right,
then
like
blasts him out
tucks,
the
yeah,
window.
blasts him out the window,
and he's like,
yeah.
"Wah!"
yeah, exactly. And then he's still just like, up, and it's just like, oh shit, like
fucked up.
you can imagine,
Yeah.
like if you saw a guy survive that, you'd be like, that dude is tough.
Well, you imagine like something happened to a person, like you get thrown 10 feet. So
Yeah.
you say this person's 10 times stronger, so they make it 10 times as hard, and then you can still like relate to like
Right.
if I
But
fell
if
down
I
a
get
flight of
thrown 1,000
stairs
times
and I'd
as
be
hard,
like,
you can't relate.
yeah, exactly. So almost like money. If like I have a dollar, I can relate to thousands and tens of thousands. I can't relate to trillions of dollars.
Right, yeah.
It loses all meaning, and
Right.
and it also loses all sense of like real physics either. You know
Right,
what I mean?
yeah,
When
exactly.
People are like catching someone going bullet speed that would just smash them into powder and stuff.
Right, yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? Like they don't deal with that. Like I'm not a huge fan of them trying to explain everything in comic book movies, but stuff has to make some sort of
Well,
sense.
the problem is that in movies you don't have to explain, but you have to play it close to us. Like I said, in a comic
You have
book,
to be able to relate to it.
you can do
Yeah.
whatever looks good on the page. It looks good to have guys in weird muscle poses leaping
Right, it's
through
like
the
the difference
air.
between like Dragon Ball Z and Avengers. Like you can do
Right.
random shit; it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, like it's still farcical in Dragon Ball Z at a certain point, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's Dragon Ball Z. It's its own cartoon world. It doesn't matter. But
Right.
once you do things live action, you chose to go that route
supposed to be
versus an
real.
animated movie.
Right.
It's going to have limitations in what seems plausible with these people.
and or what even just looks natural.
It wouldn't even
and
looks
everything.
natural.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's really a minor complaint. I'm not too worried about it. There was just one or two shots that made me worried that they'd be going
Yeah.
too whole hog and like effects bonanza. I mean, yeah, it's going to be an effects bonanza because
It
one of
has
the
to be,
characters
right.
is a giant green monster. The other one's in a metal suit, and the
another
other
one
one is a
moves at
robot
Mach
evil.
speed, yeah.
It's like, but they did a good job in all the other ones of keeping it just far enough to be fantastical, not so far as that it feels like Transformers or other movies where it's 90% CG
Right.
jumping the shark. You know.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. We only got a couple weeks until it comes out.
I'll still be entertained.
Yeah, obviously, I'm sure it won't drop
Just a
so
question of
much that
whether-
you'll just be like leave disgusted, but
No.
I don't think it'll be as good as the first Avengers or Captain America 2.
Or any of the other. I gotta rewatch Thor: The Dark World again, see how I feel. About
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
remember
I
some
still
aspects
think
of it I
that
liked.
Iron Man 3 was my least favorite of all of them. I really did not like that
You
one.
didn't like
that
Iron Man
much.
3?
Not
I
that
think I
much.
liked it. I need to watch 2 again. I think I watched that the least. I liked Iron Man 3.
I've only watched 2 and 3 and Thor: The Dark World once.
Yeah. They need to do a new Punisher one.
I know. I liked
That's
Warzone, but
yeah.
they still could do one that was like
I think they
less
could do one that fits
cheesy.
in the current
that
Marvel
fits in it.
universe.
Right. Because there's still like these people all dealing with like extraterrestrial, huge, epic
Somebody-
threats. There's still criminals and
Yeah, well,
gangsters running around New York
The
City.
new Daredevil series came out, like the first of Netflix's. They're doing.
Yeah, someone
like,
told me that there's a character on there that looks like a fat old version of me.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, I guess I'll have to watch. The Daredevil just never, as a character, never appealed.
Right, but I'm just saying what they're doing is the same thing they could do with the Punisher.
See, the Punisher
Set
I always
the
thought
same-
would be good for a series.
Right.
Because there's never like... There's not these huge epic story arcs. It's like mobsters and stuff, but it's,
Right.
you could have endless amount of material because you're just dealing with normal criminals.
Right, and it's also it fits the attrition style of the
Exactly.
Punisher well. Like he's just
It's a war. It's an ongoing thing.
ongoing war. He is the unstoppable death,
And
that
you're not
is
going to
slowly
need a bunch of
marching towards
CG
criminals.
and
Yeah.
everything because he's not a superhero.
Right.
Not literally.
I mean,
he's just
but
a
I do like the part,
vigilante.
and it would make it all the more cool that, like, eventually some superpowered villain shows up, and
See
the
how he
Punisher has
deals
to
with
deal
it,
with
yeah.
That's always fun in the comics, where like the Punisher.
Well, maybe they'll have him as a guest in Daredevil. That was cool because he always was at odds with Daredevil because he
Right.
always wanted to kill everyone.
Right, Daredevil. Well,
And was like, no, they need
he
to
was
face
never at odds with
justice.
Daredevil. Daredevil was always at odds with
That's
his
what I
kind of
mean.
thing. Daredevil would want to beat them up, arrest them, and make
he
them
would
face
always
justice.
kill
He's just like, no, I'm killing them.
Yeah.
And then Daredevil would say, no, I can't let you do that. And he'd be like,
Right.
you can try and stop me. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Which is awesome. So I always thought it would be a good like HBO series where you can
Right,
get
yeah.
nice and violent, you know. And
Well, they can do that on Netflix now. Like,
that's true. Yeah, they can be
go
violent and nude.
But yeah, so like they've got Daredevil and apparently a couple other ones coming out, like
Shield.
Luke
I
Cage.
never watched that.
Shield have not, man.
What Cage?
Luke Cage, Power Man. It's like
Power Man. I don't
he's
know
a lesser
anything about
character for a while. He became famous in. He was a big character for a while. When they in like the '70s, they had the blaxploitation comics, so then they did away with them for a while because they said it was created just to appeal to the black market. It was too cheesy because he had this like yellow deep V open shirt and like these armbands like a fro with a circlet on his head, you know?
Yeah.
Power Man, you know, keeping the streets of like Brooklyn
Detroit
safe,
or
you know?
something,
It was
yeah.
like Brooklyn or something.
Yeah.
But the thing that was fun about it is that he and other characters were street level characters where like he was supposed to be super strong and invulnerable skin. Like not super strong like the Hulk necessarily.
But like Captain America.
But like Captain America strong and nothing could pierce his skin. So he literally had to be beaten into submission where like because only by
bullets
internal
and knives
damage,
couldn't
bullets
really
knives
hurt him.
couldn't pierce his skin no matter what. But it also created problems like if he got really hurt, they couldn't do surgery.
Yeah.
You know, like
so they have to like heal him mythically
or something. Yeah,
mystically or something.
it could create problems. Yeah, like and different things. And they played it, you know, where eventually he was part of a group called Heroes for Hire, where they were basically heroes that would be like private eyes. People who...
Because they have superpowers, but they're not like Superman level, like
right. And also
universe-crushing powers.
And they're just not involved in politics and stuff. So like him and a couple other characters like Iron Fist, I think, and other stuff, where like small-time people would come and be like, hey, we got criminals in this area harassing us. Come clean them out for us. Or like, we need you to help to find my brother. I think he fell in with the, you know, cartels or something. So it makes for a different side to stories. Similar to like Daredevil and
Now
Punisher.
I want to watch Warzone again.
Right, yeah. But anyway, so they're doing those on Netflix, so it's a nice juxtaposition of they have these TV shows with the characters dealing with average crime in the world.
Just real crime,
while the Avengers are dealing with like alien invasions and stuff.
Extraterrestrial threats and power crystals and all that shit.
Right, and like, you know, rogue armies or something like that.
You know what I'm still not holding out hope for is the new Fantastic Four movie either.
Yeah,
I don't think
I'm not having any faith
Fox
in Fox.
in there.
It looks like they're doing a better route with it in terms
DC,
of like
though?
tone.
They must have been.
No, DC.
No, they're Marvel.
Was Marvel.
Why does Fox have Fantastic Four?
Because they got the right. Like initially, before Marvel Studios existed,
they bought individually.
Different studios partnered with Marvel for Sony for Spider-Man, Fox for X-Men and Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
And part of their contracts were they could keep making those movies as long as they did it every so many years.
They have to keep making them.
And they shared whatever the profit cut was with Marvel. Problem is now Marvel wants them back, but now because Marvel's so successful, they're more desperate not to give them back.
So
except for that big deal with Sony and Spider-Man recently.
Were they going to have an Avengers or something?
Where Sony's going to cede creative control of the character back to Marvel as long as they still get the profits. Like, they will be the publishers of the movie, but let Marvel Studios write and make them. Yeah, it's totally smart.
They'll make more money if the movies aren't
shit anyway. I don't know why businesses don't do that more often. Like, they get so tied up with the ownership aspect, and they think like
money.
Well, yeah, but they're still that now. They're going to make the money. All they had to do was cede creative control back and say, "Guess what? You guys are doing the better job creatively. Everybody loves what you're doing.
Right.
Why don't you make money for us?" Instead, studios used to be like, this is one of the first times this kind of thing has happened because like they would always look at it and be like, "No, it's in our house. We're not gonna, we're gonna have our guy do it." It's like, well, your guy has done a poor job.
So Marvel has Punisher then, is that they should.
Marvel's never lost Punisher.
Yeah. So sad that those movies weren't up to par, really. I mean, I really enjoyed Warzone, and I think it had the spirit of the Punisher pretty well.
Right, it was just a little corny in a few aspects.
Yeah, in a few aspects it's a little corny, but
and that's
overall I didn't have a problem. The first one I really was not a fan of.
I didn't mind it, but I know why you didn't like it. I know.
I just don't think it captured the spirit like the Warzone movie did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just like the grim, brutal guy.
Just the character was different. It was just a different character.
Yeah. Yeah. Them changing it to being a hit on his family specifically is kind of
that's what I'm saying. It changed it from being like a war to now it's just revenge. He's not out there to kill everyone who's
right. Like that's one of those cases where a lot of movies do that, whether it's superheroes or whatever. They change some big ass.
Like obviously, you're gonna have to change stuff. Like you can't be a Vietnam vet anymore.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, they've changed that in a lot of things now, where like they've had to update the.
Well, of course, and that just makes obvious sense. But there was never anything specific about Vietnam. It was just he had a history of like violence.
Vietnam at the time it was written was the first case of like known special forces guys.
Right, so now that's certainly
now just make him an operator in the Middle East or throughout the world, And but yeah, them changing that was it made for a kind of interesting scene in the movie where like his whole family, not just his wife and kids, but like all of his family's getting gunned down and he's fighting across with his dad, across the thing. It's interesting, but it changes the mythos of the Punisher and his reason for being too much.
Right.
And it seems like not a big deal. Like, okay, yeah, he's got to kill him for killing his family.
But it changes everything.
No, the idea, he wasn't killing them for killing his family. He doesn't even know the guys in specific.
Yeah, it was just supposed to be some random
it was supposed to be the tragedy
of like this world.
Flipped a switch in his head that said, nobody is actually fighting the problem. Right. I will reap the guilty from this earth. I will punish them.
Well, that's another one. Did Fox make Ghost Rider? Because those were garbage.
Yeah, Universal or Fox or something. Yeah, I can't.
Those were garbage too.
Yeah.
Although I will say that the effects for the Ghost Rider skull looked awesome in the second one.
Yeah, the second one was
they made it look way cooler.
Yeah, where it was like really smoky,
and it's like flaky, and it's like really cool.
The second one wasn't too bad in some ways.
It wasn't nearly as bad as the first one, but it wasn't good.
But it's still pretty cheesy and like weird. Yeah, like and that's another aspect that could have been done really well. And it's
like the way it looked, like you could see like the leather was like peeling and flaking off with the flames.
And stuff
it looked really
cool.
It looked
pretty badass. Yeah.
The first one looked way CG.
Yeah.
But the first
And the new one, yeah, like it had a lot more like smoke coming off the motorcycle and stuff.
Right, it's like
it's literally
dirty and,
burning, like a grease fire or a
Like,
diesel
like,
flames.
melted pavement and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's like one scene he's in the desert.
More realistic and demonic.
Right, yeah. And the Ghost Rider could be such a cool used character because premise-wise, like, staring at guys and like they're all of a sudden like seeing their sins and shit. You're like,
everything.
Yeah, like
I always thought that was cool. But I mean, it just isn't the whole like demonic type of story doesn't really fit with the rest of like the.
Well, that's what will be interesting. Is what since they're doing Doctor Strange now, they'll be touching on the mystical and the.
True, but like specifically demonic and everything is different even than just mystical and magic.
Well, yes, except that they've always intertwined, like Mephisto and these made-up surrogates for the devil in Marvel Universe.
Okay,
like they never came out and said shown the devil or God.
Well, don't they have a character that is like one who is above all or something like that?
I don't remember. Maybe that's Mephisto or something.
No, it was like some sort of super being or something, but I don't know.
Oh, no, they have like all kinds of cosmic...
That's what I mean, like a cosmic super being.
But yeah, like they basically create these new characters that are stand-ins for gods and demons kind of thing. But they also do have angels and demons, but they just never, of course, to portray actually the devil or the actual god.
Right.
But they portray that, there are some mystical...
Well, obviously they have stuff like Thor, so I mean...
Right, yeah, exactly. They're already done gods and monsters and stuff of new interpretations, their interpretations of them. So they have it there. But it's just, I guess it's just like, it always worried people because it would be, there's no contingent of Thor worshippers that get mad about his portrayal.
Right.
But there might be some contingent of church-going people mad about
Well, I don't even think it's that so much as, because I mean, other movies deal with it. They fucking like,
that's true.
What's the one with Keanu Reeves and everything?
Yeah,
Constantine. So I mean, I don't think that's a concern. I just
that was
think,
a comic book too, though. That was a DC comic.
Right. I'm saying people aren't getting pissed off about like the fact that they're
not enough to shut the movies down
and everything.
Yeah.
But it just is hard to shoehorn it in because. If you haven't set up the world to also deal with this aspect of shit, you know what I mean? Like when people die, you can go to hell or whatever.
That's one of the fun things about comics is that it's everything.
Right.
It's space monsters and angels and demons.
Right. But
I'm
saying
there.
you have to make sure the movies are set up to where that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. It's a harder thing to deal with.
Right.
True. But yeah, that's one of the fun things.
But
about
I always
it.
did think the Ghost Rider character was cool.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's a biker with a flaming skull.
A possessed man who also like demonically possesses his vehicle.
Right, and he's
it
like
turns
this
into
leather-clad biker dude with a flaming skull head.
Right.
Like,
it's what
cool.
you want to be when you become when a kid wants to be a biker. It's
right.
A flaming
it's
skull. I'm hell on wheels. Like it's come on. It's total wish fulfillment.
Right. But I remember the first one was awful.
Yeah.
And then I saw the preview for the second one. I was like, all right, they made that look really fucking cool.
Yeah, like the effects for the Ghost Rider far exceeded the quality of the movie itself. That wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna just mute this because I want to see the effect.
Yeah,
of the Ghost Rider 2, Spirit of Vengeance. All right, just a second. I don't know if I can find it. All right, so we just paused it and I watched the I didn't want to have any audio on here.
Could be legal concerns.
Well, obviously any sort of intellectual property, but yeah, it looks awesome. But and the first, I watched the first one too. It didn't look as bad as I remember. It just wasn't done quite as well.
Right. It was just the difference of like adding the
stylized,
smoke,
and
adding
looking like it's actually burning instead of just a fire
instead
being
of fire
there.
being on top of him like alcohol poured onto a table. It was more like he's continuously burning.
And there's soot and
and
black
there's soot
smoke
and
coming
blackness,
off.
and the bone is charred, and stuff. Like
it just looked
nice.
It was little touches that made it look a lot cooler.
Right.
But yeah. So Fantastic Four, I think, will be kind of shitty.
Yeah, they've made some trailers that made it look better than
they're
the
just a
other
kind
one.
of cheesier group compared to all the other comics.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could
so it would
be
take
cool.
No, it can be,
It
but I
could be
think
done
you would
cool
have
the
to
same
deal
way
with
that Guardians of the Galaxy it was a cheesier group that got pulled off entertainingly. The problem is
that's still a lot more modern of a
take.
character groups than the Fantastic Four,
right? Yeah. Well, I mean, but like the Fantastic Four was basically Earth people going into space and weird places.
Right, but I mean, their powers are just a little cheesy, like a stretchy guy, a big rock man. Like obviously you can do that
you have
stuff
a big
and make
Hulk
you can
man,
make it cool, but it has to be done well.
I think
it's hard. I think it would be
The
harder.
problem with that
to
is
do
I'm not
well.
even worried about that. Is that they changed the characters arbitrarily just because it's fun. Like,
Just because,
they changed
yeah.
Johnny Storm to be. It's not even that he's a black guy. It's that obviously he's not related anymore.
Right? Yeah. I mean, no, right.
Unless they come up with some convoluted reason for him, this white woman and this black guy to be siblings.
Right.
Okay, whatever.
Like, who cares if one of the characters was black, but when they're supposed to be a bunch of different things, and they totally change the character. Yeah, they're brother sister.
And they also changed the fact that like Von Doom is now always just to make it easy. they introduce him as a guy who gains powers at the same time as them, which is never
for no
the case.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah, he never had powers. Like, his powers were
like his technology.
he
and
was
stuff,
like
right?
Iron Man.
Yeah.
Well, he was a mix. It was like he studied both
Cybernetic,
magic and
well, yeah, because
technology.
were they doing that again? That now his powers came at the same time?
Yeah, that he was in the group with them and gets
That's
powers
stupid.
or something,
Why?
I think. Or he's a hacker that hacks the prod.
Why are they even using him again?
I don't know.
You know
I mean,
what I
well,
mean?
the problem is that he's supposed to be one of the big bads in the Marvel universe because he's a guy like he's like an Iron Man without a conscience.
And he also has
magical studies, so he's like
Right.
Doctor Strange without a conscience.
Right.
Or he has a conscience, but just his own like
He's like a
strange sense
sociopath
of
or whatever,
will
Or
to
it's
power,
evil,
Nietzschean
yeah.
will to power with a slight sense of his own honor and integrity. But
Right.
but he doesn't care. He'll kill anything that gets in his way, and
Right.
he will not. Doom does whatever he pleases. Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
and so they made it with the he had
Right. And
his
so he
powers
was
at the
always
same
cool.
time. Is kind of
He was always cool not because he was a villain, but because he was like kind of like Darth Vader. He's just like
Right.
he's there to do what I am here to do, and your
Right.
incompetence will only be tolerated one more time.
Right.
You know, like that kind of thing. And they always get away from that. Like they always get away from he's some guy who's got a vendetta against the Fantastic Four. And he only ever had a vendetta against the Fantastic Four because they would tend to thwart him.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't that I don't even remember his origin story being tied to theirs at all, other than he just became a constant foil for him in early comics.
That's the thing. Like, why is it related to them specifically? He should just show up or something.
He later on went to
That's
be just
one
a
of
big
the
bad.
major flaws, especially with the reboots, is they focus too much on the origin. And that's one of the things I think that Punisher Warzone did better.
Because
they
everybody
just
knows
ignore it.
why the
Or, I mean,
Punisher
you can reference it, but you don't have to rehash
You don't have to have
it.
half an
spend
hour, an
half the
hour of the movie
to
setting it
go
up.
through the origin story again.
It's the least important part of the character, really. Like, what we
Yeah.
love about the Punisher is that he's an unstoppable killing
Right.
machine that hunts criminals.
Well, especially now when
The
you're getting
origin
into
story
this
is
all-
just an
like the
excuse
Hulk. They
for
didn't
him
have
to
to do an
exist.
origin of the Hulk or Thor or anything. They have Avengers be an awesome movie. Especially when even if you're dealing with the fact that the other movies didn't really exist, if you're not going to change much about the origin story, then there's no reason
Really,
to
the only
redo
one
it.
they needed to do, which is the ones they did pretty well, were Iron Man and Captain America. Like,
Right.
That's the only characters in which their origin story is important because it's about a change of their heart at the same time as them obtaining the powers.
Right. It's not just about
Or
how
like,
did these guys
yeah.
get powers, and also tied it. Those movies were done as part of like the Avengers arc of movies. They're all done by
Right.
the same people, so parts of those stories fit into other parts, and that made it
stories, yeah.
more than just like we're showing you what happened. Like it built up story, like the stuff with
Right,
Hydra was
yeah.
used in the other movies and
Right,
everything.
yeah, exactly.
So, and the Tesseract was used in other things and
Right,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
exactly.
So it was as much setting up other origins for other story arcs in other movies as it was for
the
them.
character, yeah.
So it made sense.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
And let's face it, some people have cooler origin stories anyway.
Right,
When
yeah,
it's just like your family died. Like the Punisher's origin story is very effective for creating that character, but it's not really that
But
great
it's three
of a
panels.
story. Yeah, it's three panels.
It's three panels like this man
And same
once with a loving family.
Fantastic
Now,
Four,
cut
like they
down.
get zapped with space radiation. Okay, I mean that's whatever.
Right,
Who cares? It gives them their powers, but it's not really like a
Right,
compelling.
who they are afterwards is the more
Right.
important part than what.
And that's what
got
was
them.
great about the Captain America was showing his psyche basically.
Right, it was
how
his character was the important part,
not
right.
when and how he got his powers. It was literally
Right.
in the movie that was like a 5-minute section where
Right,
all of a
yeah.
sudden he has powers now, and
Right,
it didn't
yeah,
really
exactly.
matter.
Yeah, the whole point was that it was a moral story. It was the whole point of him becoming Captain America was just to be more about like good character makes power worthwhile.
Or like what can you
or
do
like,
if someone
what
who's
do
a
you do-
good person gets
Right,
the
yeah,
power?
yeah. What happens when a good person gets power?
Right.
Exactly. Not a complicated thing.
Kind of like
about-
that old saying. They're like, I forget who said this, but anyone can withstand some level of adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. People can hunker down and power.
Like
through.
everyone has to do some sort of shittiness.
Right,
Not
yeah.
everyone gets to show you what they would do with power.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
Those are
those movie ramblings, nerd ramblings on movies.
yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So now for something completely different.
Segue. We should have like a
Segue.
segue sound.
Right, yeah,
Like
exactly.
dun, dun, dun.
Right. Impromptu segue.
Yeah. Or like, how's this for not making a big thing?
Right. Yeah.
Like Fight
exactly.
Club.
Watch this segue.
Yeah.
So
And now for our segue.
Right. Yeah.
Or something weird intro.
Something
Anyways.
kind of like that. Yeah. I was thinking of something that might be a fun kind of discussion to talk about.
Oh, I got yeah. Go for it.
That just like it'd be kind of interesting to talk about. Well, first it needs a little preface because knowing us, this is kind of outside what we normally, or it could get bogged down. Basically, is what I'm saying. And that is basically like if you ruled the world or the United States or whatever, what kind of laws would you make or how would you change society? I'm not talking about normally, of course, most of what we would probably do is really just get rid of a lot of laws.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like you're basically being proponents of limited government and things like that to an extent. I think
I'm a proponent of voluntary government. However limited or not you want to make your group is irrelevant to me, as long as the government is voluntary.
Right, but I'm saying without getting into that, let's say you ruled your own little fiefdom.
Right.
Your own little piece, like you ruled a state or something, and everybody there wanted to be there or could leave. Yeah, exactly. And you could change something. Basically, like if you were going to be like the liberals and try to forcibly change societies through laws all the time,
right?
What kind of laws would you make?
Like if you were going to say everyone has to fucking do this,
right? Yeah, exactly. Like I know. Basically, get preface out of the way. It's just for humor's sake. Yes, we're not really advocating iron fisting everything all the time. Like it might be necessary in some places to do that, but just saying, like if you ruled a little fiefdom or a little kingdom, a little society, or even a big one, and you just make some laws to change people's behaviors, stuff you're like, people need to stop doing this, or we need to change this.
Well, you know what's funny is when you stop insulating people from the natural consequences of their actions. A lot of this stuff takes care of itself.
But I'm saying all that aside.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because my mind does not think that way. Like, what would I make people do?
Well, it's not even necessarily what you make people do, but how you would change the structure of society.
Okay, go for it.
Give an example. I would probably ban pornography and make prostitution legal. Okay. There's no point in having these societies in which everybody gets a lot of fake stuff cheap when you can have real stuff for a little bit more money.
Right.
Okay? Why are we stopping people from actually...
Let's not fool ourselves. It's not cheap. It's free.
Well, right. Yes.
That's the big difference.
Right. But, like, that's the problem. You're getting a... pornography is known to have detrimental side effects. I mean, I'm no prude, but, in the end, too much stimuli of just watching something on a screen. I'm saying this even as a guy who plays video games and loves movies.
Right.
But too much stimuli of just watching a screen, especially tied to, like, the sexual response, it's going to weird you out eventually. Yeah. And... just let guys get laid somewhere,
right.
and let women make some money.
They have showed that, like in societies with more freely available pornography, that like sexual crimes go way down.
Right.
But the point is with some kind of release, so that could be the legal prostitution too.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I'm sure it's the same there.
Right, and of course, that's not even that I'm advocating anyone go be a prostitute.
Right.
For religious reasons, I may think that these are both bad ideas. But for legal, like managing a society-wise, you've got one structure that is letting some women and men make a lot of money off of other people viewing them versus ever actually giving any services to people.
Yeah.
Versus, so
let's be honest, people are selling their bodies all the time. Whether it's to carry a box or type on a keyboard or touch a wiener. It doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But similar thing too. It's like it's part of it's just because too, it's funny to me, like that's one of the problems I think of our modern age. Is we've got so many force multipliers in technology. There's a small group of people can make money, then the average person can't compete anymore.
Well, in certain aspects.
Some of it is globalization, the fact that they can outsource the labor work to another country.
Yeah.
But like with automation and that, the average guy who would qualify for a blue collar job in terms of skills and intelligence and can do it pretty well, it's got nothing to do now.
Or less, anyway. That's what we need to get into robot. We need to get in on that.
Robotics.
Before every job is taken, or at least just invest in the right companies. Find out when they're coming up. Because before, in 30 years, it's going to be hard to even get, all sorts of minimum wage jobs are going to be done by robots.
Right, and that's another aspect with the law stuff. Like, if I could, one of the laws I might make would be about the food stuff, about making sure it's all real food, none of this injected fake crap in there.
Yeah.
And, that may seem like meddling with capitalism, but at the same time, it's just protecting people from fake stuff.
Well, I would always just make, at least having to be honest about what it is.
Right. Well, in a properly libertarian society, it would just be the rules would be you have to be honest about this and have laws that if you make this stuff, you got to show exactly. You have to be honest about what's going in there and why.
Yeah.
And
because this shit's gnarly.
But at the same time, not all human beings make wise decisions. So if I was ruling my little fiefdom, though, I would say you can't do this, and it would also that would hopefully. Structured in some way that would push more jobs to more local grown food in each region. Therefore, more people have jobs in those regions making and cooking food fresh each day. Like, big farm somewhere makes lots of cows, ships out just slabs of cow, and instead of them being pre-processed and pre-packaged in some factory, a local place gets fresh cow pieces and has to prepare them every day. instead of them getting in from a freezer truck something made in another state, now for 3 weeks they've got
40-pound chicken,
oozes of chicken in a Ziploc bag that they squeeze out. Like, oh, here's the queso. Like, no, you got to hire somebody to melt cheese, make the queso, not a vat of pre-liquidized queso that's got however many preservatives in it, and they cut the top off the Ziploc. Because, like, if you go to restaurants, people, and this is something that people don't realize, they're like, I go to a restaurant, the queso's so good, and like they talk about how fresh it is.
Cheese shit.
Like, it's every restaurant.
It's like powdered
mix.
It's
a Ziploc bag. It's a bag. It's not even a Ziploc bag because it's
a big plastic
It's
bag.
a big plastic bag that you stick in a boiler. You boil it inside the bag. You cut the corner off and you squeeze this bag out in the thing, and it's preserved and frozen with all kinds of stuff in it. That it's none of them, except for maybe artisanal places that charge you $20 a plate, are making real fresh food. It's gross. Like almost every place has got a frozen sack of something somewhere that was made in a factory in Mexico, and it's like, ooh, made fresh daily. No, thawed and reheated fresh daily.
Yeah,
like chilies and
I would also make
Moe's and everything else.
I'd be legalizing most things, but I would make steroids legal.
Yeah,
and let people know what.
That's another thing I'd do too. I would totally restructure the way science and grants are handled.
Yeah.
Where I would have a government-funded body whose work it is simply to find the truth about these things.
Right.
Like steroids. Okay, we do a body, and they cannot be funded by any other organization.
Right.
Or if another organization does a study to say, hey, look, this works like X, then the government's body's job is to corroborate that by going in and being like, and if anyone ever meets with somebody from that movie, or not movie, from that company, why did I say movie?
Yeah.
From that company, and to give a hint that they might have influenced the results, everybody's fired immediately, and a new team restarts the test. But basically, just if we're gonna fund money, if we're going to use government money to fund science programs, let's have their job be to find the truth, not have like we currently have, like the FDA sitting in dinner meetings with these companies,
like Monsanto,
and stuff, or the pharmacy companies and the people serving on the board in the FDA used to work for these companies. They're now seeing that, stamp, your stuff is good and doesn't hurt people,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Or even if it's, I'm not saying it all hurts people. Used to be in
like a medical, I forget what the book is called, but like the physician's desk reference or whatever.
Yeah.
From as recently as like mid to late 90s, it was like, there is no evidence that anabolic steroids have any muscle building properties or anything. Other than like every Mr. Olympia ever. Right. They just will not even deal with, like you said, with the truth of the aspect.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, this is without making a value statement. That's what I hate, is when people can't deal with facts without making a value statement.
Right.
Like, you're not even, by finding out whether something's true or not, you're not, that has nothing to do with against us. Just find out what truth is, then you can figure out what people should or shouldn't be doing individually. I don't think the government should be figuring that out anyway.
Right.
But at least you want to know what this stuff really is and what it does before deciding whether you should or shouldn't do it.
Right. Of course, that statement that I made, it's these organizations in our society were supposedly existing for those reasons I've already stated.
Like the FDA.
So it would probably get corrupted just as these other ones have. But I would like to think you could do something.
Not if I'm the king of the universe.
Not if I'm the king of the... Yeah, if I was king of the world, I would have one of my branches of government, one of my subsections, would just be a series of people who police the government. Everybody beneath me gets audited every so often. You did something, you lied, chopping off heads.
That made me think of a dilemma I came up with. Would you rather have like a box or a Google search bar or whatever that can answer any question you have truthfully? Like, it will give you the truth of any question you can think of.
Anything that human beings know or that could possibly be known.
Like,
magically... It can tell you the number of grains of sand on the
anything
seashore.
You ask, anything that could be known, you could have, or any other power that you could want, that you could think of, like power, Superman, immortality, anything like that.
That's a little bit harder than you think to get to choose.
I would have to go with the knowledge, because if it's I would assume that hopefully it's possible to be immortal, and the thing could tell you how to do it.
Right? Yeah.
Whereas otherwise, if it's not possible, then you're missing out on getting something that's impossible.
Right.
Technically, with this power, with this wish
of knowing everything.
So I think I'd have to go with the knowledge
that can tell you,
because you'd be guaranteed insane wealth. Because even if you were just like, what's the lottery numbers for tomorrow, it would know that. Yeah. Or like, how do I build an Iron Man suit if it's even possible? It would know that if it's possible. Right. Like, if time travel is possible, it would tell you how to do it.
Right.
or if it's possible to make someone gene therapy to be immortal, it can tell you how to do it. If any of that stuff, some of it might not actually be possible. You don't know.
Right, yeah.
And if you want to see what are the real origins of the universe, any of that stuff, it can tell you. I think it would just be too interesting
because it could cover so many things.
Cover everything.
Like one power.
Right. So the only question would be, you're banking on the fact that like immortality and stuff is hopefully possible.
Yeah,
even like it doesn't matter if it's millions of years away in terms of actual technology. Otherwise, without that knowledge, if it's there, if it's possible, you would be able to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
So I think I'd have to go with that one.
Yeah, that is an interesting dilemma there. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's another one. Would you rather have immortality, but you're still you're not mortal, but you're still fragile like you are now? You could still get a disease, you could still get a car accident, you just don't age.
Okay.
Or you get like but Superman powers or Dragon Ball Z powers, but you have normal lifespan, age and die.
I think I'd go with Superman powers.
I think I would too. Might as well make an impact,
right?
Because you want to like die of like pneumonia 3 years later anyway, or car accident.
You
might as well
spend your life
history books and change the world.
Because I remember reading some sci-fi stories that made a fun.
Because then your life becomes about trying to live.
We're like, society
like
got
when
very
you're mortal, you almost get to forget about it
because they could medically live forever like that without aging, but they could still just simply be killed.
So they just got. I was reading about there's some sorts of psychological bias that when the risks are a lot like that, it's sort of like how people in like caveman times or whatever were less worried about getting like broken bones and shit, even though they would die from it. Yeah, then
like,
now
well, I'm dead anyway.
Right, I'm dead. Yeah, like you're going to die young, so fucking do whatever you want. It's sort of the same thing. Like if you're like vampires, where you're almost immortal, they become so worried about protecting like wood and heart that they're actually more paralyzed by being afraid of the one, because there's only one thing that it seems more dangerous, even though it's way more dangerous to be just regularly mortal.
Right, yeah.
It's some kind of bias. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, yeah.
The human brain is very terrible at evaluating risk.
Yeah.
In general, and dealing with it. It's just like awful.
Well, there's so many unknowns.
Even when they're evaluating the knowns, this is what I'm talking about. Like, it's just evaluating the information that you do have about risk and making decisions based on it.
Well, because it's mostly instinctual based. It's not really weighing it out.
It's based on fear. It's not based on...
And it's also because you typically are making that decision subconsciously in a half second, not sitting there reasoning it out.
Yeah, but even when they do, it's just the human mind is just terrible at dealing with risk and like assessing it and like figuring out what...
Many people,
right.
Yes.
Like, just like they'll get afraid about... They're terrified of like terrorism, but they won't think anything of like walking down or driving, just because even though the risks are just insanely higher. Like, like it's not even close.
Right, yeah. Yeah, exactly. But then again, it's some of that is because people drive all the time without ill effect, but the unknown of terrorism is something that can simply drop in from the sky, so to speak, and harm you. Yeah. So it becomes a boogeyman.
Yeah, exactly. It's like hanging, but even though it's not really,
even though the statistical likelihood is that you'll be involved.
Yeah,
in
there's all sorts of strange psychological biases out there. Like, people would rather eliminate a risk completely. Like, they'd give them like choices for these tests, where say you have like 5 risks or whatever, and they also have like a percentage of like this is this percent chance of happening, this percent chance of happening.
Right.
And rather than like reduce one of the huge risks by a big amount, they'd rather eliminate one of the ones completely, even though the overall risk reduction is way less.
Yeah.
Like you risk of dying is only dropped by 5%.
The knowledge of the human beings is that there's only a certain amount of things you can think about and worry about.
Right.
So removing one possibility off the table is more soothing than simply saying you're less likely to get hurt at all, but you're still worrying about 5 things. Yeah. They'd rather worry about 4 things at the same amount they used to worry about 4 things. Right. Those 4 things likelihood of occurring is still the same, but you have one less thing to worry about. Is for some reason appealing to human beings
more so than overall risk of dying
is lower because like not having to worry about it. I think it's probably just because of the uncertainty of life. Any kind of certainty is just very appealing.
And the idea, right, exactly. I think they're going for some kind of certainty. Like, this is gone now. There's no chance
they will never have to worry about that again.
Which this sort of makes sense in a way, but I mean, obviously, I was cursed with enough intelligence I would have to go for that. Even though I probably I wish I didn't have to worry about this one at all. But
but there may be circumstances throughout most of history that caused human beings to develop this way, where like, it might make more logical sense to say, reducing all of them overall a little bit is better. But then something could change, and you have to worry about those 5 things in a much higher state now. Whereas if you completely can remove something, to where you will never have to worry about it again.
I don't think these people were 4th leveling it or whatever like that. But.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm saying maybe there's some reason for that. But I think really what it is just that there's only so much a human being can stress over, and if you can remove one of those stresses, you are
that's why
making
smart
yourself better
to realize,
cope with the other
that's
stresses.
why like it's important to realize those types of human psychology when you're dealing with other stuff. Like, people, there's a bunch of people who are like, the math says, you should pay off like your highest debt first. You know what I mean? Even if it's the biggest or whatever. Whereas somebody like Dave Ramsey says that you should just pay off whichever one will get paid off quickest because he's dealing with that exact that mentality, and it feels like, oh, I've made progress, it's gone, this one less thing to worry about. Even though over time you'll pay less in interest if you attack the highest interest debt first, regardless of how it amount.
But it's in some ways for human psychology and just finances, it's better to get one and done out of the way,
right? And then you
improve
pick up
your standing,
steam,
and then you have a little more spending money to attack the other debts,
right? And you have a victory under your belt. You've got one less debt to worry about. So in actual results, your results will be better because it's a program that you'll stick with.
Right.
Whereas mathematically speaking, so that deals with. So it's
you have to acknowledge the emotions of people and how they.
Oh, of course, because if it wasn't for people's
even your own emotions,
strange decision making proclivities, and you people wouldn't be in debt to begin with. If you could always look and say this is the math and make a correct decision, then it just would never. You probably wouldn't be in debt to begin with. So yeah. So it's funny when people act like, well, so obviously math says this, and we're dealing with reality. Just like the whole when people talk about carrying a gun, like, what's the best gun for concealed carry? It's like the one that you will carry every day,
right?
Even if it's a pea shooter, it's better to have that every day than to occasionally
it's
have.
It's obviously definitely better to have a better one than that if you can. It's still better to have something that you.
And when you're talking about which one will you have when shit goes down, it's whatever you can have. It's whatever you will be carrying.
I will advocate that the one you have be better than a pea shooter,
right?
Because a lot of people you can carry a lot more than you think. Like a lot of people think, I just get this little pea shooter.
But I'm saying the point stands. You know what I mean? If you're not going to carry a fucking full size 45 every day,
right?
You know what I mean?
Can't carry a double stack, full length Glock all the time, and. You can't carry a big 357 with you everywhere you go.
Unless there's an open carry state, but
right,
so obviously I wouldn't think you should carry a 22 either, because like you said, there's some pretty. But I'm not dealing with guns. I'm just talking about the mentality.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're speaking of those back to those
I found a quick
dilemmas
online. These are more moral dilemmas, though.
Right, but we're going to illustrate how stupid people are that this is a moral dilemma.
Right. Okay. So this is the first one. This is just some random list thing. It says you're an inmate in a concentration camp. A sadistic guard is about to hang your son who tried to escape and wants you to pull the chair from underneath him. He says that if you don't, he will not only kill your son, but some other innocent inmate as well. You don't have any doubt that he means what he says. What should you do? Well, so the bottom line is, regardless of what you decide to do, you are never responsible. Yeah, your son's going to die, and you're never responsible for what anyone else does. Regardless of why he says why he's doing it.
This is just a classic abuser technique or a
to make you feel bad,
to make
and then you feel even worse.
Their crime.
So then you feel like, oh, I killed my son.
And it's also a way of getting you to be complicit and obedient to your captivity.
Right.
Because they make you feel guilt.
So no matter what they can say or do, if that guy kills someone, he did it. So I've always, I was telling Brett not long ago, I was like, I've already decided, because I've watched all these movies, and if I ever end up in a prison camp type situation, I think the problem is people assume that they're trying to do everything they can to get out alive. I think if you do what the Hagakure says and wake up every morning and face death like a samurai, then death is not the worst thing that can happen to you. Then my goal would be I'm going to kill one of these motherfuckers. That would be my mission. Even if it's the first time you get an opportunity they just hand you a backhoe and say dig a rock, I'm swinging around and planting that in the first guard that's standing next to me, right in his face. And maybe I'll try to grab the gun and take some more out. Of course, I'm not just going to roll over and die, but avoiding death would not be my primary motivation, especially in a situation like this.
For that
question, I would spend my last moments gouging that guy's eyes out with my thumbs.
Well, the two correct answers are active resistance, or you simply say passive resistance. No.
Well, say you're not making me responsible for your actions.
There's nothing you could do that makes me the killer.
You are the killer. Yeah, exactly.
And then
what's like in the beginning of what's a good example of that? A good example of that is at the end of No Country for Old Men. He's like, flip this coin. And she's like, no, you're not making this my choice. You either kill me or you don't. Yeah. You know what I mean? And there's nothing I can do about it. This is not becoming something that I made happen. You have to take responsibility. You can't say, oh, they flipped ahead. Right. You're choosing to kill this person.
It's really the cowardice of the person doing the killing that they got to try to pass it off. Or their own sadism.
Yeah, they're just sadists. Yeah. Which, again, don't give them that pleasure.
No.
Yeah.
You kill me or you don't.
Right.
You kill these people, you don't. That's on you. But that's part of it is this becomes a quote-unquote moral dilemma only because the people are afraid of their mob's reaction.
And they're afraid of their own guilt.
Well, they're afraid that they will feel guilty that they couldn't save their son, which, anyone's going to feel sad.
They also caused this other person to die.
And that this other person caused to die because they couldn't make the hard choice. Right. They're going to feel bad that the rest of the group... But it wasn't your choice to begin with. But they're going to be afraid that the group will come and be like, Bob, why did Bob have to die too? You should have just killed your son. Well, then you turn to them and say, fuck you.
Well, that's what these
people are the murderers.
We're so effective almost is because they relied heavily on lateral policing like that.
Yeah.
But anyways,
the crabs will always drag you back down to the bucket with them.
Right. But again, if you're facing life as a dead man, you know what I mean already, then death has no sway over you. What is, I forget that quote, but it's awesome. It was like, what is death in the face of like maintaining your integrity?
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
What is that? You saying that's supposed to be a choice?
Right, exactly. Why do you put these trivialities before
and it was
me?
like, the example was like, if you're surrounded by like 30 guys, it's like, charge those motherfuckers and take one out.
Yeah.
What are they gonna do? Kill you? You know you're dead anyway.
Right. Exactly.
All right,
let's hear the next one.
These are probably all going to be easy. You're in emergency. Yeah. A lot of them are false dilemmas too. Like in the first one, you're not really making a choice. That's the thing.
Right. Your choice is whether or not to play this guy's game or not.
I just said this. Yeah, right. And that's why I hate it when people use the lesser of two evils voting argument, because it's the exact same thing. They act like you're not doing what they say, if you don't do this, it's your fault. And it's like, no, fuck that. Nothing someone else does is your fault. The decision that they make is not your fault.
Just because you can't stop them from doing evil doesn't make it your fault.
And if you like say, okay, well, I complicitly go along with you killing this other person
to avoid killing,
then you've gone. All that's happened is that now you've gone along with this person being killed,
and that's why they set up those dilemmas to begin with, because they know they can. That complicity.
You didn't save that person's life. All you've done is say, "I'm okay with you killing my son."
It's a system of milking some obedience out of you, so that you get ever more compliant, and then you stop resisting.
You're an emergency worker that has just been called to the scene of an accident. When you arrive, you see that the car belongs to your wife. Fearing the worst, you rush over to see she's trapped in her car with another man. She sees you, and though barely conscious, she manages to mouth words, "I'm sorry." You don't understand, but her look answers your question. The man next to her is her lover, with whom she's been having an affair. You reel back in shock, devastated by what your eyes have just told you. As you step back, the wreck in front of you comes into focus. You see your wife is seriously hurt and she needs attention. Even if she gets attention, there's a very high chance she'll die. You look at the seat next to her, and you see her lover. He's bleeding heavily from a wound to the neck, and you stem the flow of blood, and you need to stem the flow. It will only take about 5 minutes, but it will mean your wife will definitely die. If you tend to your wife, however, the man will bleed to death, the fact that could have been avoided. Who do you choose to work on? I mean, that's not really a moral question.
Choice.
Yeah, that's a triage choice.
You would have to make that call as a medical professional, which is the most likely to save.
Well, obviously, to say what would be the moral choice, you have to say, okay, what moral guidelines are you living by? Right. Obviously, if you're saying, what would I do? I'd probably be let them both die. You know what I mean?
Right, okay.
Well, and if there's another person there, what you should probably do is say, hey, I have to recuse myself from being the one who makes this decision.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or even though if you're talking triage, it's an obvious choice. You save the guy that can live.
Right. But let's assume that their triage assessment in the thing they said, like you can only save one.
Then you save the guys with most chance of survival. That's the correct triage answer.
Right.
But the reason they threw in this about your wife is to see what you would personally do.
Right.
And I just let them
make
bleed
you
out.
Feel world. Yeah. But well, my personally do. I mean, like just
I'd take their watch and their
the correct moral choice to me is you save the wife because that's your responsibility. That person is part of your family.
Yeah. You say it's my responsibility as a family person more than my responsibility as an EMT or whatever.
Right. If I have equal chances of survival for both these people, they're both bad. I have one choice over the other.
Then you go for your family.
It sounds against our in-person, what's the word I'm looking for? In-person decision making that we like to champion.
Yeah.
But the truth is, your family is part of your responsibility. You know,
and if you don't think that your family members are more important than some other random person, you're kind of an asshole.
You're kind of an asshole. Yeah, exactly. So like your brother, your mother, you're something in there. You shouldn't show partiality in the sense that like this other guy, your family's hurt minorly, and this other guy's going to die in seconds. And
right.
You go
you're like they're putting a splint on their broken arm while his artery is gushing from his
neck.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. That's not what we're talking about. Right. But like both these people will die in 5 minutes. You only have time to save one. You have to save the one who is your responsibility.
Well, they're saying she's probably going to die anyway. Like maybe you could save her, but that's what I'm saying. It's not.
Yeah. It still would probably fall under like if you're there by yourself again. That the premise is flawed because no EMT is there by himself.
Right.
But
here we go. You are the network administrator for a rather large company. You have a young family and you need your job to support them. See, that's what a lot of these dilemmas put in false constraints like that. Like, okay, well, obviously, if you let this get to the point where you're completely dependent on a job, they add in this like, well, what if you're completely dependent? Like, look, I've structured my life so that I'm not dependent on shit like that.
Right.
So, like, obviously, you could say, oh, if I became a drug addict, maybe I would steal this.
For the exercise, we'll continue with their dilemma here.
So you need your job to support them. As part of your responsibilities as a network administrator is to monitor the emails for the organization. Usually, this means just occasionally allow through for emails for staff members that have been accidentally blocked by spam filters. Okay. Yeah. One day you get a help desk request from a staff member asking for an email to get released. Normally it's standard procedure, except the request has come from the wife of a very good friend of yours. You recognize the name on the help desk, so you attend As part of the procedure, you have to manually open the email, and you discover that it isn't spam. You find that it's actually emailed to your friend's wife from her lover. You scan the rest of the contents, and there's no doubt she's been having an affair for some time now. You release email, but you can't decide what to do. Your initial reaction is to call your friend and tell him about the email. However, you quickly realize the company policy is very strict about revealing the contents of confidential emails of staff members. Are you not permitted to reveal? In any case, you know that revealing information presents great risk. You feel that not telling your friend, blah, blah, blah. What do you do? I mean, that's just up to you. Obviously, you have to determine how good a friend this guy is. If you really, obviously, if you need your job. I mean, obviously, you could just tell him anonymously. Send him a letter and say, your wife's cheating on you, if that, without really risking your job.
Or you can even, that's one that, even though it might be kind of the coward's way out, is, but it might also
it's
be
not
the
your
appropriate
business,
way.
really.
Well, not that, but I'm saying it could be what I was going to suggest. It's either, it might be kind of cowardly to go and pass the buck on, but it also might just be the appropriate thing. Maybe go to your supervisor and be like, look, I've been made aware of something. Policy says I'm not allowed to do anything about this, but this person's behavior on company time is like this is personal emails on company time, and it's a little bit weird, like
right.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't really care about that.
But yeah, that one's
I don't like these type of questions. I'm trying to find like
the humorous ones,
ones that like to make a decision, not necessarily like a moral thing.
Yeah. Well, that one I think it just depends on how good of a friend they are. Like if they're a good friend,
then obviously
you
want them
tell
to know. Yeah.
If they're
if it's just some random person, then it's not really your business.
Where it's not your business,
and it's against company policy.
You agree to this policy. It's rare that you have a friend that's close enough that every little thing in your life is their business and vice versa. But when you do have those friends,
100 would you rather questions.
Okay,
I'm not going to go
better
through
choices.
all of them, but
yeah, we'll pick a few samplings here to wind up the podcast.
All right, here we go. Wind down.
Wrap up. And
would you rather go about your normal day naked, like one day, I guess, or fall asleep for a year? That's easy. I'd rather just go naked. Otherwise, you wake up broke and shit, and like.
Well, depending on the consequences of falling asleep for a year, I might not mind sleeping for a year.
Is this good sleep, or is it like how I normally sleep?
Exactly, yeah. Can I just be away for a year?
Would you rather be gossiped about or never talked about at all?
Probably gossiped.
Probably gossiped about. Would you rather be hairy all over or completely bald? I'd go with bald.
Yeah.
I mean, are we talking like just normal man hairy or like fucking wolf man hairy?
Right, yeah.
Because obviously it's more problematic to be completely hairy than it is to be bald.
Right.
Because the only place it would really matter is your head. I mean, like the only place that's even weird is like eyebrows and shit.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And I don't even know
Being
if that's
hairless.
I don't even know if that
is preferred
people
by some
pay
people
for that shit.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I don't know if they're even talking about eyebrows or if they just mean like bald on your head, because that's an easy choice. You just, I mean, most people don't look amazing bald, but they don't look worse than having like fucking comb overs and shit.
Right, yeah.
Most people look better, and eventually, like a lot of people who are bald, you just don't even notice. If you take care of it, and you don't have like weird hair that you're trying to pretend like you still have hair. If you just shave it off or whatever,
just keep it
buzzed, or you don't even have to have it like bicked, but just like buzzed,
right,
like Jason Statham or Bruce Willis or whatever.
Right, yeah.
Just no one even notices.
Yeah.
And I even have a kind of a weird shaped head. Okay, would you rather be happy for 8 hours a day and poor, or sad for 8 hours a day and rich? I'd rather be poor and happy.
Probably. There's a lot you could do with this is a false dilemma though too.
Right, it is.
There's a lot you could do with rich to change your mood.
I mean, are you just guaranteed to never be happy no matter what you do with your money? Then obviously I'm going to choose to be happy.
Yeah, exactly. If there's some weird magical reason that you can't be happy when you're rich.
Right, or can't get any money when you're happy.
Right, yeah.
Would you rather be invisible or be able to read minds? I'd go with the invisibility, I think.
I think I'd rather read minds.
You think so?
It would learn stuff you don't want to know and deal with crap.
I mean, it could
but
be
you could
useful.
You could make far more quote unquote legitimate use of that than invisibility. Like invisibility would often
have to be crime.
Yeah,
it'd have to be crime.
But you could like game all sorts of systems. With
poker, you could become the poker champion of the world pretty easy.
Or like stocks and bonds. You're in the room and you also know an inside trade that's going because someone's thinking about it.
Or like chicks, if you're like wasting your time right off the bat.
Yeah, exactly.
Like just look around and be like, this chick's like, ooh,
which one's looking at me? Which one's looking at me? That one.
Yeah. Would you rather be rich and ugly or poor and good looking? Probably rich and ugly. You think poor and good looking?
Poor and good looking can lead to rich. Again, this is like, is this a forever magically thing? Because like, there's plenty of poor and good-looking guys that became rich and famous
because they can be a model. Yeah, that's depending. Are you stuck being? Because obviously, if you're like, oh, I'm going to look like the guy from Supernatural, and I just start out with no money. Right. Okay, I'm just going to go be a male model, or go be an actor, or whatever. Yeah. Or just go do what you were doing anyway. Or just go do what you're doing anyway, and then just also be good-looking.
Right. Yeah.
But are you guaranteed to be poor? I think it's a question. Obviously, you have to have both.
Right. Like you.
And how poor? Like I'm poor now.
Right. Yeah.
And I just also become super good, like more good-looking than I am.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we're already pretty good-looking, but so what are we really gaining here?
Yeah, exactly.
Would you rather be stranded on an island alone or with someone you hate? Someone I hate. I'd kill them. Well, I'd kill them and then
use their body for food.
Yeah, either eat them or just say like they attacked me, and when the people if they ever do find them, they have no way.
Now you have two pairs.
Like if Nancy Pelosi's on the island with me or something. Right. I'm like, okay, I'll just beat someone to death for entertainment.
Next one.
Would you rather eat poison ivy or a handful of bumblebees? I'd say poison ivy. The bumblebees could kill you, swell up your throat.
Yeah, that could be bad. Although you could kill the bumblebees fast enough, perhaps.
But they're still dead. They can even sting you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that would be.
And in your throat and mouth. That's
poison ivy though could be really bad too, though, depending on your reaction to it. But
yeah,
mostly they don't tend to swell up as bad as bees.
I think it would be easier to treat.
You're
not going to die in like 3 minutes while you're sitting there like, oh yeah, it's all spin. Okay, would you rather end hunger or hatred?
Okay, that's
hunger.
That's a stupid wish.
Hatred is people's own stupid fault. So hunger, I would end.
You can't end hatred unless you take away free will.
You also can't, right? And you can't end hunger.
Hunger you could end by having a magical device that pumps out as much food.
Right, but either so. Assuming it was possible to end hatred, and it wouldn't be like equilibrium where it's just lobotomized.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like ending hatred means you're either lobotomizing people or you're killing everybody that somebody hates.
True love or $10 million. Next question.
You give me $10 million, I'll buy truth.
Would you rather forget who you were or who everyone else was? Again, is this like you can't ever find out the information that you've forgotten, or like
you
bam,
spend
you're
the rest
blank
of your
and
life
you can
with
start
a mental block?
Because obviously it'd be more problematic to not remember who you are.
Yeah.
Would you rather get caught singing in the mirror or spying on your crush? Singing in the mirror. Spying on your crush could actually be illegal too.
Right, these days. Yeah.
Would you rather make headlines for saving somebody's life or winning a Nobel Prize?
I don't think I've ever spied on anyone that I've.
Depends on what the Nobel Prize is.
Read that one.
Would you rather make headlines for saving somebody's life or winning a Nobel Prize? Is it like the Obama Peace Prize,
right,
or is this like you
life.
made some awesome discovery of like free energy? Then
right, yeah.
It depends.
Considering the state of the Nobel
Prize,
but
for me, the prize itself is irrelevant. It would have to be what I did.
Yeah, it would depend on like if I could make the news for inventing something awesome.
But I would only be happy because I invented it. I wouldn't really give a shit if
that it made the Peace Prize.
Yeah, then I wouldn't really care that I got the Peace Prize.
If I invented Iron Man's armor,
here's an interesting one. Would you rather meet an alien visitor or travel to outer space?
Travel to outer space.
I mean, but are they just talking about like go around in the space station? Because I'd rather there be known that there's freaking aliens.
Well, yeah, it depends on the level of travel.
Right, if you're like blasting off into foreign galaxies, and
interstellar flight,
right?
Give me that.
But if it's just a ride in the space shuttle, I'd rather meet an alien.
Yeah, but if I'm just going to circle the Earth a few times and poop into
this
a
was super easy. Would you rather never use the internet again or never watch TV again? I don't watch TV anyway.
To begin with,
and all the TV shows are on the internet.
The free market has already answered that question. The internet is.
Would you rather not be able to use your phone or your email? That's interesting. Do they mean just not use any smartphone at all, or not be able to use phone calls?
I think they mean phone calls.
That's easy to get rid of. Not make phone calls because you can still do.
It's almost people text and email all the time now.
Messaging on Facebook on a tablet. You can use a tablet instead of a phone.
The free market has already answered this question. People are paying for the smartphones and internet access.
Would you rather not be able? Would you rather only be able to whisper or only be able to shout? I think we have that problem already.
Yeah. I'm already between both ends of the spectrum.
I can't hear anything.
You can't hear me, and then I
can't hear anything, so I'm going to go shouting.
Right.
Would you rather own a ski lodge or a surf camp? I'd probably say surf camp. I like the beach.
I wouldn't mind either, but
I'd probably
pick the beach.
But I'd pick the beach. Because it's just more physically comfortable to be by the beach.
The mountains are cool, though. But I've never lived there for any length of time.
And if you're in the right place, you could have a surf camp year-round, or ski lodges are never year-round.
Yeah. But you can have, like, mountain trails and hiking and stuff in the summer.
Would you rather be in a dark and scary room for days all by yourself, or be in a well-lit room alone with Michael Jackson? Michael Jackson, because I can't see in the dark, and I could beat him up. First of all, he's dead, but even if he was alive, he's not really like a threat. First of all, I'm not his type.
Well,
and even if he tried,
they would be uncomfortable with Michael Jackson because of what he's been accused of.
I could demolish him with both arms tied behind my back.
Sit in the corner and shut up, Michael.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sing me a song, clown.
Right.
Would you rather have balls hang from your chin or have a 5-inch tail that wags every time you get excited? I'd have the tail because you could get that removed.
Yeah. Wait, I guess they're assuming you can't remove, but you can hide the tail.
Yeah, you just tuck it in your pants. You know, like chin balls. Like
chin
in that
balls,
one, Hugh Jackman where he had the neck balls.
Neck balls, yeah.
In movie 43. Would you rather throw up every time you have an orgasm or have your genitals look and smell like rotten eggs?
Look and smell? What?
Yeah, I guess, like, what does rotten egg look like? I'd have to throw up, I guess.
I just would never eat before sex.
Yeah,
just
have a bucket. Or just find people who are into that shit.
Right, exactly. You'll find somebody into that shit.
Would you rather smell like a fart all the time, or drink or for the rest of your life, or drink one diarrhea milkshake? I don't think I'd be if the goal was you had to finish it, it would never happen.
No, I could not.
So I would just. I mean, I smell like farts most of the time anyway, because I do fart.
Depending on what kind of farts we're talking about.
Would you rather be stuck on a desert island with a Star Trek clan or with a constipated clown? I mean, Star Trek fan. No, fan.
Oh.
I mean, yeah.
Star Trek fan. You probably have an encyclopedic knowledge about something
stupid. It doesn't necessarily bother me either.
Right, yeah. But he might have some weird knowledge about, like,
Here we
in
go.
episode 47, they use this to, like, create fires. Like, that actually works.
Would
Okay.
you rather always take a cold shower or always sleep an hour less than you need to be fully rested? Well, that's
I'd always
happening to
take
me
a cold
anyway.
shower. I'd always-
So if I could guarantee, like, if I take cold showers, I will get awesome restful sleep.
Yeah,
No
exactly.
question, I would take
I
cold
would take
showers.
cold showers.
Yeah.
People talk about the benefits of
Yeah,
cold
it's
showers
supposed to make
anyway.
you, like, get that lymphatic fluid moving
Right,
and
yeah.
everything. Here we go.
As much as I don't jump
Would
in
you rather
for myself
always
all
get
the
first
time.
dibs or the last laugh? Well, it depends. Does getting first dibs mean that it's going to happen?
Right.
Like, if you
What are
see
we
a
talking
chick and you're
about
like, dibs, does that mean you just get it before your friends, or you're actually going to get her every time?
Right.
Or last laugh mean
Last
you're always
laugh on
right?
general
Does that mean you're
principle.
always right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I take that.
General principle, take the last laugh. Like, in the end, I win.
Because
You know?
if you're getting the last laugh, yeah, that means you're winning out in the end. Because first dibs means it must not go well if you're not
Right.
getting the last
So basically,
laugh.
the question is, do you want to win the battle or the war?
Right.
I'd win the war.
Yeah, exactly. Win the war. Would you rather always have to say everything on your mind or never speak again? Well, obviously, never speaking again would be horribly problematic, so I'd obviously
Yeah.
just rather blurt out everything.
Right. Just get used to being, just find some charisma.
Would you rather always lose or never play? That's a good question. I think that'll expose a lot of losers. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because obviously, never playing is shitty.
Yeah. I mean, it's not fun to always lose, but...
Right, but the only joy from doing things is not just from the victory. It
Right.
would suck to always lose, though.
it
Don't
would
get me
suck
wrong.
to- yeah.
But to never get to even
But then,
play,
again, that's like one of those false dilemmas just for the sake of discussion. Because
Yeah.
in reality, it's...
Neither is possible.
Neither is possible, yeah.
I mean, some people do never.
Well, you could always lose at a particular
rather
thing, but you're
always-
never only doing one thing in life.
Would you
could
rather always wear?
Find something else as your
That's
strength.
true. Would you rather always wear earmuffs or a nose plug? That's weird.
Earmuffs.
Probably the earmuffs.
Nose plug would just look so funky. If you have earmuffs, it might think you have some sort of hearing issue.
Right.
Or you're always
Would
cold
you rather
in
be
your
able to
ears.
stop time or fly? Tony, like my girlfriend thinks that this is like the most amazing power ever, the stopping time.
Yeah.
Because
what
she's
can you
conflict,
do?
she's
How
conflict
does it
avoiding.
exactly work
That's what we're
for you?
saying. Like, how does it work?
Do you just stop and then can see everything, or can you move?
No, you have to be. Otherwise, it's worthless.
Right,
So
yeah,
that, I mean,
exactly.
it could be
So,
really
okay, you
powerful
can
if
move.
it ends up being like you're the Flash, but
Right.
instead of moving really fast, everything's just stopped, and you
Right.
can manipulate things.
Yeah.
Then obviously that's really, really powerful because
Yeah.
you would be undefeatable.
Right. And not only that, you can pull off all sorts of capers and heists and
Anything.
stuff.
You can do whatever you want to anyone. You can
And
kill
then
the
as soon as the
president
cops show up, you
or
just
any
disappear
head of
because you
state.
froze time, walked 10 miles,
Did it.
and unfroze time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So that
And
would obviously
those
be
are
incredibly
not fair
powerful.
comparisons because flying is like
It's cool, but not really
middling
that effective.
compared to the power level of stopping time.
Right.
That's like saying, would you like to be able to
but people
throw
don't think-
faster than anyone else on the baseball, or be Magneto?
Right, exactly,
You know,
yeah.
like, oh, come on, like, what choice is this?
Or do you want to? Yeah, but people don't like go through what you would be able to do at the time. Stuff.
Right.
Would you rather be an unknown minor league basketball player or a famous professional badminton star? Probably the professional badminton star.
Fame has
Famous,
perks
yeah.
that
You could get
can
money
do that.
from being famous, even if you weren't getting it from the badminton
Right, you
itself.
get more endorsement deals. And that's
And besides, I
famous,
don't like playing basketball.
Right, I'm not a basketball.
Would you rather be born with an elephant trunk or a giraffe neck? I'd say that the elephant trunk would probably be easier to fix and less problematic. It would be
Yeah,
bumping
'cause
because you'd be
I would
fragile.
remove extra
Yeah,
neck.
you'd be fragile with all that extra neck. Would you rather be forced to tell your best friend a lie or tell your parents the truth? This is stupid. Like, what's the lie
Yeah,
about
what's
and
the
what's
lie
the
about
truth
too?
about?
Yeah, like-
If it's the truth, is like I sharded one time and you didn't
Right,
know
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Who cares?
yeah.
But if the lie is like I fucking hate you and I never want you to talk to me again
Right.
to your friend, and,
And
you
then
have to tell them that.
Tell them that, even though you really would like to see them.
Yeah, then that's way worse. So
Yeah,
those aren't equal necessarily.
Well, it's too vague.
Right, they could be completely. One could be really lopsided. Would you rather be forgotten or hatefully remembered? I think it's another character twist. I will just quote: "Let them hate so long as they fear."
Right.
Would you rather give up your computer or your pet? Ooh, that's a tough one. Although I'd have to say,
I don't have a pet, so this isn't.
I love my Mongo, but he's not going to live more than 10 more years anyway.
Right, and if you
So-
can never have a computer throughout the rest of
Exactly,
your life,
but if it was just for the same
and also
time
for the
frame,
purposes of work,
right? I make a
I
lot. I have
a
to give
computer.
up.
I have to
yeah.
have a computer.
And give up doesn't mean he's going to die. Maybe I just
Right,
have to
it's
give it
like,
to someone
You know,
else.
he's got to go to the farm upstate.
Right, yeah. Would you rather go to an amusement park or to a family reunion? Probably a family reunion.
Yeah.
I like my family.
Yeah,
People act like they hate their families. I guess some people
just got
probably
shitty
do.
families, I guess, but
Would you rather go without television or junk food for the rest of your life? I'd say probably without junk food, only because that would force me to not be able to eat it.
Yeah.
It's an easy
Yeah.
way to be like, don't fix that problem.
it's a better moral
And I
choice
already
right off
don't
the bat.
watch
You know, like
television.
it's a health
So it
choice
would
thing.
would make my life
Yeah,
better.
I'm already not really watching that much television
make
until
my
it
life
comes out
better.
on the internet. Like
So that's another thing. Are they talking about without a TV or without watching shows
Shows,
ever again?
right,
Because if
yeah.
that was the case, I'd say I'd go without the junk food again because I don't want to eat it anyway, and I do at least occasionally watch.
Exactly, yeah. But even so, neither of them would be too hurtful. I would find better things to do with my time.
This
You
is
know.
easy too. Would you rather have a beautiful house and an ugly car, or an ugly house and a beautiful car? Go with a sweet car, man.
Right, yeah.
I mean, as long as the house is just ugly.
Is it exterior
Well, it didn't even matter. They're just
fine?
ugly just means how it looks.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, it looks crappy on the outside, but it's still livable and nice.
Well, even
on
if
the
they're just talking
inside.
about, like, the layout may not be bad. It's just, like, ugly wallpaper or something. It's just looks ugly just means how it looks.
Yeah.
So I just rather have a sweet car. I already have an ugly house and an ugly car. So
Either one.
I got a cool motorcycle, though.
If
Right, so either way, I'm moving up in the world. Lay it on me. Right. Would you rather have a kangaroo or koala as your pet? I'd say koala because they're smaller.
Smaller,
the chicks
easy
will
to
dig it
handle.
more. Probably easier
Yeah,
to
chicks
feed.
dig it more,
It's
exactly.
not going to kick the shit out of you if it gets mad.
And you could wear them like a backpack.
Right, yeah, and people
Or
just think that's
a
hilarious.
papoose.
That's an easy one.
People like you then.
Would you rather have a missing finger or an extra toe? Extra toe.
Yeah, you can hide it.
We can hide it and it doesn't cause problems. Having a
Yeah,
missing finger
is
could
a
be
detriment.
problem.
Extra, you can get it cut off and you're back to where everybody
Right.
else started.
Or you just it's there and no one cares. Interesting. Would you rather have 1 wish granted today or 3 wishes granted in 10 years? Now, this is obviously a good time preference question, but it's not necessarily because if your wish was immortality, you don't necessarily want to wait. You may be dead in 10 years.
Right.
I'm tempted to go for the three years.
Yeah, initially said
and
3
then
and 10 years because you
sweating my ass off that I lived 10
and you
years.
can plan a lot of things and then be
Right.
like, okay, I've made my decision. Here's the 3
Right now,
things.
I wish, and I figured out how to beat the genies with the multiple wishes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? What
You wish for a genie?
No. Assuming that those are
I
that
wish
you
for
can't
another
game it
genie.
in that sense. Like you can't wish for more wishes, you can't wish for more genies.
Yeah.
Or can't wish for other things that grant your wishes. You just write everything that you want on a paper.
I wish for this.
I wish everything on this paper to come true.
Right,
That's
yeah.
one wish that all of this is true.
I wish this story would come true. And you write a
Well, not a story. I just say I wish all of these things were true. And it says I'm immortality. I have this. I have this. I have this. Like immortal with all these conditions. I'm with all clauses, appendix to this, and whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And to say I wish that
Super
all of
strong
these
with
things
these
were
powers,
true
you know.
in a way that makes me happy with the outcome. I always add that too, so you have a bastard genie try to fuck you
Right,
up.
yeah. You have to be a lawyer about it.
Right, yeah, which would be easy. Just have a lawyer look over it. And, well, not even a lawyer. You would want like lawyers or
Contract
You'd
law.
want like a logician.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
someone who's good at argumentative reasoning, not necessarily
Right, yeah.
law, because
Right,
law
right.
is
But
not.
that's what I mean. Like
Right.
law in the pure sense of like, you know,
Okay.
you're arguing the contract.
Would you rather have X-ray vision or bionic hearing? I'd probably, even though it sucks to not be able to hear, I'd have to go with X-ray vision.
Yeah.
Seems more
Too
useful. Too useful.
Being
You
able to
cheat
see enemies through
or
walls.
see through walls.
See if things are coming.
See naked chicks.
Right, there you go.
Would you rather invent a cure for cancer or AIDS? Cancer, absolutely. You
Yeah.
can't stop.
The amount of people that have one versus the other is so
Not only that, and
significant.
also if you decided I am not going to get AIDS, you could structure your life so that it could never happen. You
Right.
can't do that with cancer. It just
Right.
happens to people
For
with
reasons we don't
totally
fully understand yet.
unrelated to their behavior, as far as we know.
Right.
Like, there's no way that you can prevent yourself from getting cancer.
And it happens just
100%.
for so many varied reasons.
Right, and obviously
It's
there's
not
so many more people get and die from cancer. It's not
Right,
even
yeah,
close.
exactly.
Would you rather kiss a jellyfish or step on a crab? I'd rather step on a
on a
crab.
crab, yeah.
Yeah, you could get like all flamed up
Like, you know,
lips.
like,
and,
yeah, like the tentacles.
besides,
like
like
all
stepping
over
on a crab
your
may
face.
fucking crush and kill it anyway.
Right, you get poked once.
Would you rather know it
and
all
there's
or
no
have it
poison.
all? This goes back to what we were saying. You got to go know it all
Because you can get it.
because you can get it all. We can get so much.
Right, yeah.
Would you rather always win pie eating contests or always win wheelbarrow races? I'd say the wheelbarrow.
Wheelbarrow
Because
races.
some sort of athleticism
Physical
involved.
prowess,
But
yeah.
also, that would have to carry over into other things. You
Right,
couldn't
yeah.
just automatically win those
If you're
without
always
being in
winning
really
fighting
good
contests,
shape.
it just means you're fat.
Yeah,
If
or
you're always
big
winning
mouth, yeah.
races, it means you've got some level of athleticism.
Here's a tough one. This one is actually a good one. Because it's not as obvious as it seems.
All right.
Would you rather be 3 feet tall or 8 feet tall?
Which end of the extreme spectrum do you want to fall on?
I just have to say 3. It's
Really?
so problematic to be 8 feet
I
feet
think
tall,
I'd rather
like Robert
be tall,
Wadlow.
though. Yeah.
But they can't even walk. They can't
Yeah.
ride in cars. Like
Yeah.
everything sucks.
Yes, but they get a lot more attention than a short guy.
Yeah, but it's not for
In terms
anything
of, like-
good. You're just wandering
No,
around.
but
You
yeah,
can't
I
even
mean,
fit in doorways
You
and
get
couches.
treated like a freak either way.
Right, but I think there's more
But-
physical ailments for the 8 foot tall person and more physical
Most likely.
limitations.
Most likely, but I mean, like, you're more likely to be
Like you could actually find clothes with-
hired for movies or interviewed as the freakishly big guy.
I don't know.
than as
Have you
the-
seen the people 8 feet tall even try to walk around? It's not good.
But I mean,
Here's
I'm
a
thinking
question, would
Like
you
Andre the
rather
Giant. Like Andre the Giant got a lot more
Yeah, but he wasn't
fans
8 feet
than like
tall.
midgets.
He was
you know?
close, but he was.
Yeah.
I don't know. Dinklage is famous.
Right. But I mean, like he was, he did WrestleMania, he did other things, and yeah, plenty of medical problems. But there was like everybody.
Well, it depends on
would
what
wanna
type of.
be
Obviously,
Andre
it
the
depends on
Giant.
what type of physical state you're in.
Yeah.
Would you be Andre the Giant or, Dinklage? That'd be a tougher choice than like
Right, yeah.
Robert Wadlow and some random midget
Right.
because he had all sorts of ailments.
Right.
Well, here's another one. Would you rather be 3 feet taller or 3 feet shorter? Well, that would make it even worse because I'd either be almost 9 feet tall or less than 3 feet tall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'd have to go with that either one would be shitty. Then same question because I'm almost 6 feet tall, so it's almost the same. It's like a little bit taller and about the same shortness.
Yeah.
I guess 3 feet taller because then that'd be a world record.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
Would you rather be a deep sea?
Let's do 2 more and then wrap it up.
I'll get to 50. We're on 48.
Okay.
Would you rather be a deep sea diver or an astronaut? I'd say astronaut. Yeah.
I'd like to be.
Well, you could do. I could go be a deep sea diver right now if I wanted to.
Right.
If I really was
astronaut
dedicated.
Would be like a wish
that option is not really
thing.
available to you.
It's not available to the average person.
Would you rather fight Mike Tyson or talk like him for the rest of your life? I'd fight him.
Yeah.
At this stage in the game, I'd even have a chance.
Right. Yeah.
Just catch him in a choke or something.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, obviously he's a beast, but he's old.
But even if he had to fight him in his prime. I think
so you get knocked out real
better
quick.
Story of like, hey, I went one round with Mike Tyson for 10 seconds.
And you're not all fucked up. People get knocked out all the time. It's not that devastating.
Right, yeah.
And then it wouldn't be like...
Then you got a story versus talk like somebody who's made fun of your whole life and you can't fight like Mike Tyson, right?
This is stupid. Would you rather do your mom or do your dad? I guess if you're going to be incestuous, you might as well not also be homosexual.
Yeah, exactly. I guess unless you're already homosexual. But,
that's a stupid question.
You might as well go with your already sexual proclivities if you're going to be.
It's not going to happen either way.
Forced incestuous on top of that.
But that was 50.
Right.
So
what's the 51st? Let's hear a better one.
Oh, the 51st was: would you rather be deaf or blind? That's so easy. Who would choose blindness?
Yeah.
You're so helpless.
You can manage deafness, I think, easier than blindness.
Of course you can. You can still do everything yourself. I'm mostly deaf as it is.
You have hearing aids that can circumvent that a lot better.
Even if you're assuming that you, no matter what you do, you will never hear or never see.
Right.
Like, you use your vision for everything.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, not being able to hear is a pain in the ass, but it's not nearly as problematic. You can still read, you can still watch movies, you can still do a shitload of jobs, you can still do everything by yourself. Still communicate with texts and everything. So,
although I don't know how much of life is, it'd be weird because like so much of life is people talking to each other, and if you can't talk,
yeah, but that's you
one
can
thing.
Find other ways to communicate
you can function independently
even
more
with lip
easily
reading.
with your eyes.
And you really thinking you would rather in any way rather be blind than that sucks so bad. You
I'm
can't
only,
do anything.
No, yeah, except that I'm just wondering, like, it's like, well, you always need help.
Unless you were like
more help as a blind person,
right?
But you don't have as much trouble interacting with people.
Well, I mean, if they're just sitting right next to you, you can't see their face or their body language. But like, I think of everything that you enjoy doing. How many of them could you do when you're deaf, and how many could you do when you're blind?
No, for sure, you would be a lot more.
Because you can even watch movies with like you can't listen to music. That's about it. So unless you're like the world's biggest music fan, I think you'd rather want to be deaf instead of blind.
Yeah. Well, on that downer note, blindness or deafness.
Exactly.
I think we'll wrap it up for the week.
Yeah, we're getting a long one. It's about an hour 40, so you're welcome. We'll talk to you guys later.